The pianist had not touched the keys yet when I saw that my mother had cut me out of my father's life. She had arranged 23 photographs across 3 tables in the lodge dining room. Dad holding a trout, Dad laughing beside his retirement cake, Dad and Nathan at a softball game, both of them sunburned and squinting like men who had recently discovered the sky. Near the guest book stood a picture from the Dayton Air Show. I knew it because I had the original in my apartment. Dad was supposed to be pointing at an old transport plane, but he had turned at the last second and pointed at me instead. In this copy, the photograph ended at his elbow. A sliver of my blue sleeve remained along the edge. My mother was straightening the frame when she noticed me. Her hand stopped, one on either side of my missing body. I was still in uniform. After 21 hours of travel, my hair had given up pretending to obey regulations, and there was a pale coffee stain near the cuff of my left sleeve. I had my carry-on in one hand and Dad's last voicemail sitting unheard in my phone. Mom looked from my face to the uniform. "You're not planning to wear that, are you?" That was how I learned she wasn't shocked that I had made it. She was angry that I had found out. 71 hours earlier, I had been standing outside a communications trailer with a paper cup of coffee, so strong it could have removed paint. It was just after midnight where I was. The air still carried the day's heat, mixed with diesel and dust, and somebody had left a plastic spoon on the concrete barrier beside me. The spoon kept trembling whenever a generator cycled on. My mother had called twice. She almost never called once. I answered on the 3rd ring. "Mom?" There was breathing on the line. Then a small clicking sound I recognized as one of her bracelets striking the kitchen counter. "Elena," she said. "Nobody in my family called me Elena unless I was in trouble or someone was dead." I set the coffee down. "What happened?" "Your father collapsed this morning." For one stupid second, I pictured Dad tripping over the curled edge of the rug by the refrigerator. I had warned him about that rug. He had said the rug had seniority. Collapsed how? There was an aneurysm. They took him in, but there wasn't anything. Her voice thinned. There wasn't anything they could do. Behind me, the trailer door opened. Technical Sergeant Bell stepped halfway out, saw my face, and quietly stepped back inside. I stared at the trembling spoon. When? Just after 6. Was he awake? No. Was Nathan there? He got to the hospital before the end. I nodded as if she could see me. I had briefed people under worse conditions than that. I had spoken in rooms where every sentence carried consequences. Still, the only thing I could make my mouth do was repeat, "Okay." Mom made a sound that might have been a sob or might have been her trying not to make one. "I'm putting in for emergency leave," I said. "I'll call the travel desk as soon as we hang up. Elena, don't. I can be at the airport in a few hours. The memorial is going to be small and immediate. Friday afternoon. Your father hated fuss. It was Wednesday where she was. Thursday where I was. Time had become a hallway with doors opening in the wrong places. I can make Friday. No, you can't. I've gotten home faster from farther away. Not everything is a mission. I picked up the coffee, then realized I had no intention of drinking it. I know that, do you? Because there are people relying on you there. You've always made that very clear. Mom, we're not delaying this while you rearrange an entire operation. He wouldn't want that. I didn't ask you to delay anything." She went quiet. In the background, I heard the refrigerator door alarm begin its polite beeping. Dad always stood with the door open as though a better snack might reveal itself if he waited. Mom said, "You made your choice years ago, Lena. Your father knew where he ranked." The line stayed open for 3 more seconds. Then she hung up. I stood there until the spoon stopped shaking. Bell came back outside carrying a bottle of water. He was 42, had 3 ex-wives, and believed antacids were a food group. He put the bottle beside my coffee without looking directly at me. Bad. My father died. His whole face changed. "Damn, Major, I'm sorry." "Thank you. You need me to get Colonel Pierce?" "I need 10 minutes. You got 20. I asked for 10. "Yeah, but you look terrible, ma'am." That made me laugh once. It came out sharp and embarrassing. Bell nodded, satisfied. 20. I called Nathan from an empty office. It rang until voicemail. I called again and left a message telling him I knew, that I was trying to get home, and that I was sorry he had been at the hospital without me. Then I called the travel desk. Grief did not stop paperwork. It created more of it. Names, dates, relationship to the deceased, departure location, destination, contact numbers. I answered every question in a steady voice. By 2 a.m, I had preliminary approval to leave. By 3, Belle had taken over my morning brief. At 4, I was packing with the ruthless efficiency of someone trying not to look at her phone. Dad had left me a voicemail 9 hours before he died. It was 27 seconds long. I could see the duration under his name, but I couldn't play it. 27 seconds felt too small to contain the last time I would ever hear him say anything new. Instead, while folding a black dress into my carry-on, I remembered him driving me to the airport before my first overseas assignment. He had carried my bag even though it had wheels. At security, he said, "Call your mother." "I will. I mean it. I know. And if they give you any trouble over there, tell them your father has a socket wrench and very poor impulse control. That should settle international relations." He grinned. Then his eyes turned wet, which he addressed by becoming extremely interested in a sign about prohibited liquids. Dad never made leaving easier. He just never made me pay for coming back. At 6 a.m, Nathan finally replied. His message read, "Mom told me you couldn't come. Thank you for sending flowers. I'll make sure somebody records Sunday for you." I read it twice. Then a third time, because the word Sunday refused to become Friday no matter how long I stared at it. I called him immediately. He answered in a whisper. "Lena? Why are you whispering? I'm at Mom's." She finally fell asleep on the couch. "When is the memorial?" There was a pause. "Sunday." "What time?" 2. Mom's bracelet had been hitting the kitchen counter while she told me Friday. She had been standing in the same room where Dad kept a paper calendar beside the phone, because he distrusted any device that needed updates. Did it change? What? Was it Friday when she called me and then you moved it? No. We booked the lodge yesterday afternoon, before Mom called me. Nathan exhaled. "She said you had something happening over there, that you told her there was no way. I told her I was requesting emergency leave." "Okay." She told me the service was Friday. Another pause, longer this time. From somewhere near him came the faint scrape of a chair. For a moment, I wondered if Mom was awake and listening. Nathan said, "Maybe she got confused. Did she print the wrong day on the invitations? You don't have to do that." "Do what?" The cross-examination voice. "I'm asking whether Mom somehow became confused only during the part of the conversation where she lied to me. She just lost her husband. I just lost my father." "I know." "No, Nathan. Right now, I don't think you do." He lowered his voice further. "She said she couldn't handle waiting to see if you showed up. She said you'd make promises. Everybody would plan around you, and then something would happen with work." I sat on the edge of the narrow bed. The mattress gave a metallic squeak. What promise did I break? I'm telling you what she said. And I'm asking you. You missed Thanksgiving. I was deployed. You missed their anniversary dinner. My flight was canceled. I drove 6 hours the next morning. She said Dad sat by the window half the night. That sounded like Mom. Dad would not have sat by the window half the night. Dad went to bed at 9:30 and once fell asleep during a tornado warning. Did you ask him? He's dead, Lena. The cruelty of it startled both of us. Nathan said my name, but I hung up. He called back twice. I let it ring. I had spent years believing my brother and I understood each other's assignments. He stayed. I left. He handled leaking faucets, pharmacy pickups, birthday dinners, and all the other ordinary duties that never earned a ribbon but still wore a person down. I never resented him for being the one Dad called when the garage door jammed. Apparently, he resented me for every time Dad waited to call until the time zones lined up. My itinerary came through an hour later. 3 flights, 2 brutal layovers, and a final arrival Sunday morning. If nothing went wrong, I would reach the lodge before noon. I sent Nathan one message. "Do not tell her I'm coming." He replied almost immediately. "That's a bad idea." "Probably." Lena. I turned my phone face down. Travel reduced the world to trays, plastic bins, boarding groups, and people standing exactly where they blocked the most foot traffic. I changed planes in a terminal that smelled like cinnamon and floor cleaner. I slept for 40 minutes with my cheek against a window. An elderly man asked if I was going home or going away, and I told him I no longer knew. At my final layover, Nathan called again. "She knows you got leave," he said when I answered. "How?" I told her. "Of course you did. I'm not running a covert operation against our mother." "Good. You'd be terrible at it." Under other circumstances, he would have laughed. Instead, he said, "She says it's your decision, but she doesn't want drama. I'm flying home to bury Dad." The drama beat me there. She's not herself. Maybe. But she knew what day Sunday was. He sighed. "Just don't walk in ready for a fight." I watched a baggage cart crawl across the wet pavement outside. "I haven't been ready for a fight with Mom since I was 19, I said. "She keeps mistaking the fact that I survived them for enthusiasm." My last flight landed at 10:23 Sunday morning. The rideshare driver was named Gary. He had a bobblehead moose glued to the dashboard and a commitment to conversation that survived every short answer I gave him. When he learned I had come for my father's memorial, he turned the radio off and drove the remaining miles in silence. The lodge sat beside a gray lake under bare-limbed trees. Through the dining room windows, I could see people carrying flower stands and folding programs. No guests yet, no music. I thanked Gary, took my bag, and went inside. Mom stood beside the photograph she had cut me out of. She asked if I planned to wear my uniform. Before I could answer, Nathan came through the side door carrying a cardboard box of programs. He saw me and stopped so hard the programs slid against his chest. "You made it," he said. Mom's jaw tightened. I looked at her. Apparently, I was always going to. Nathan glanced at Mom, then back at me. "You told me your flight got in tonight. I told you not to tell her I was coming. That wasn't the same as telling me when. I was improvising. You hate improvising. I've grown." Mom turned the cropped photograph face down. It was such a quick, guilty movement that none of us could pretend she was merely adjusting it. Nathan saw the blue sliver at the edge. His eyes moved to me again. A woman in a burgundy blazer emerged from behind a movable wall carrying a clipboard. "Mrs. Mercer, I need to check the chair count with you. We have 54 on the final catering sheet, but the room diagram only shows 42. Mom didn't take her eyes off me. "There should be 54. We can fit them, but we'll have to take out the center aisle." "No." I set down my carry-on. "Keep the aisle. Add 6 on each side behind the existing rows." The woman looked relieved. That was my suggestion. Mom's head snapped toward me. "Elena, please." "What? You've been here 30 seconds. And she needs a chair count. I don't need you taking over." The woman with the clipboard took one careful step backward. I had seen junior officers make the same maneuver around unstable equipment. "I'm not taking over," I said. "I'm doing arithmetic." Nathan closed his eyes. Mom pressed her fingers against her temple. "I cannot do this today." "Then let her add the chairs." "I meant you." The burgundy blazer woman said, "I'll just have the staff proceed with 54 and escaped." I admired her. Nathan put his box on the nearest table. "Can we maybe go somewhere private?" Mom's laugh was quiet and ugly. Why start now? A young lodge employee came in carrying a metal stand, saw the 3 of us, and went right back out with it. I took my phone from my pocket and placed it beside the face-down photograph. "You told me the memorial was Friday." I said we were originally discussing Friday. "No, you didn't. You were half a world away. The connection was bad. The connection was excellent." I had just watched my husband die, and I was trying to come home. You always say that as if wanting to come is the same as being here. Nathan shifted his weight. "Mom." "No, she has arrived in uniform to interrogate me, so let her." I looked down at myself. The uniform had gone soft and wrinkled from travel. It did not feel impressive. It felt like recycled airplane air and the coffee I had spilled somewhere over the Atlantic. I arrived in what I was wearing. You had time to change. I had a 47-minute connection in Atlanta. You could have changed at the airport. I could have showered in a drinking fountain, too. I made a judgment call. Nathan made the faintest choking sound. It might have been a laugh. Mom heard it and turned on him. "This is amusing to you?" "No, you encouraged her. I didn't even know what flight she was on. You knew she was coming, because I told him after he told me you'd lied." Mom looked at him as if this were the betrayal worth discussing. Nathan rubbed his beard. It had gone more gray than brown since I had last seen him 6 months earlier. "You did tell her Friday." I was confused. "You booked the lodge before you called her." Mom's face changed. Not much. A tightening around her mouth, a stillness in her shoulders. But I knew her. She had expected Nathan to stand beside her while she rearranged the facts. She was deployed, Mom said. She could not be expected to get here. I didn't ask to be protected from an airline schedule. I was protecting myself. The honesty of it left the room quiet. Mom picked up the photograph and set it upright again. She didn't look at the cropped edge. "I could not spend 4 days waiting for another call saying your orders had changed. I could not manage Nathan, the lodge, the funeral home, your father's relatives, and whether you were going to disappoint him one final time." My mouth went dry. Nathan said, "That's enough." Mom looked almost surprised to hear it from him. I had imagined this confrontation across 3 airports. In every version, I was calm, exact, and devastating. I would repeat her words back to her. I would make her admit what she had done. Instead, I said, "He was already dead." She blinked. "You weren't protecting him from disappointment," I said. "He was already dead." Her lips parted, but a door opened behind us before she could answer. 2 lodge employees rolled in a cart loaded with water glasses. The glasses trembled against one another, filling the room with a delicate chiming. Mom smoothed the front of her dress. That was her real talent, not lying. Recovery. "We have guests arriving soon," she said. "If you intend to stay, there is a restroom down the hall." "If I intend to stay?" Nathan reached for my carry-on. "I'll show you where you can change. I know where a restroom is." "Lena." I let him take the bag. He led me through a side corridor lined with paintings of ducks. One duck seemed personally offended by our family. At the restroom door, Nathan lowered his voice. "I'm sorry." "For which part?" "All of it. That's broad. I should have called you when Dad died." "You thought Mom did." "I should have called anyway." "Yes." He stared at the brass restroom sign. "You don't have to make every apology difficult. You don't get to make them convenient." He nodded once. He looked tired enough that I wanted to put a hand on his shoulder. I didn't. "Did he suffer?" I asked. "No. At least the doctor said he probably didn't know what was happening." "Were you there when it happened?" "Mom called me from the ambulance. I met them at the hospital." Nathan swallowed. "They let me sit with him afterward. I leaned against the wall." "I talked to him," he said, which was stupid. It wasn't stupid. I told him you were on your way. That got through everything I had been using to hold myself upright. Nathan looked at me. "I knew you'd come." I stared at the duck painting across from us. Apparently, not enough to question it when Mom said I wouldn't. He accepted that without defending himself. A lodge employee came around the corner with a stack of folded tablecloths. Nathan moved aside, and the moment closed. He handed me my bag. 10 minutes? I can do 7. This isn't work. It's a dress, Nathan. There are only so many operational variables. That time he did laugh, though he covered it with a cough. In the restroom, I took off my uniform and folded it on top of the hand dryer, because there was nowhere else. My black dress had acquired one long wrinkle down the front. I wet my fingers and flattened my hair. The woman in the mirror looked older than the one who had left home 6 months earlier, but grief probably made everyone look like a badly restored portrait. I had packed mascara. I couldn't remember doing it. When I reached into the side pocket for a hair tie, my fingers touched Dad's old key ring. 3 keys and a miniature red flashlight that hadn't worked in years. He had given them to me during my last visit so I could check on the house if he and Mom took their anniversary trip. "Don't lose those," he had said. "I manage classified material for a living." That doesn't answer my concern. I closed my hand around the keys until the teeth pressed into my palm. Then I changed, folded my uniform into the carry-on, and went back out. Nathan was waiting with one of the programs. He held it as if it had become contaminated. "What?" I asked. I didn't proofread these. "Okay." Mom said she had it handled. I took the program. The front had a photograph of Dad sitting at the end of the dock in a canvas hat I had bought him. Underneath were his full name and the dates of his life. Inside, beneath a paragraph about his 34 years repairing industrial heating systems, it said he was survived by Judith, his devoted wife of 41 years, and their son, Nathan. Nothing followed Nathan's name except a period. I read the line again, not because I misunderstood it, because part of me believed that if I gave the page enough time, the ink might become embarrassed and correct itself. Nathan said, "I didn't know. Clearly. I'm going to get them reprinted. The guests are arriving now. I can have someone do what? Stand by the door with correction fluid?" His face reddened. I said I didn't know. I heard you. Mom appeared at the end of the corridor. She had pinned a silver brooch to her dress since I last saw her. It was one Dad gave her on their 25th anniversary. "What now?" she asked. Nathan held up the program. "You left Lena out." Mom looked at me, then at the paper. The wording came from the funeral home notice. "You wrote the funeral home notice," he said. "I was working with limited space. You included his bowling league. It was an important part of his life. So is his daughter." A couple entered the lobby behind her. Mom's expression transformed before they had taken 3 steps. "Warren," she said warmly. "Paula, thank you so much for coming." Warren opened his arms and Mom went into them. Over his shoulder, she gave Nathan a warning look. Paula noticed me first. "Oh, Lena, you got away after all." Got away. As if I had been at a spa with a restrictive cancellation policy. "I got leave," I said. Warren released Mom and shook my hand with both of his. "Your mother was certain it wouldn't be possible." "So was I," Mom said. Nathan's jaw tightened. More guests came through the doors. Dad's former co-workers, neighbors, members of his bowling league important enough to survive limited space. They brought covered dishes despite the catered food, because grief in our town had always required too many casseroles. Every third person said some version of the same thing. "We didn't think you could make it. Your mother said you were tied up. Ray would understand." I stopped correcting them after the 5th person. A broad-shouldered woman with silver hair came in carrying a pie box. She studied my face, ignored my offered hand, and pulled me into a hug. "You have Ray's worried eyebrows," she said. I stepped back. I didn't know his eyebrows were worried. They worried about everything. His mouth just covered for them. She lifted the pie box. "Celia Torres. Your dad insulted my coffee twice a week for 9 years. He told me it could dissolve a spoon. He kept drinking it. That sounds like him." Her eyes moved toward Mom, who was accepting condolences near the guest book. Doesn't sound like the version we're apparently honoring today. Before I could ask what she meant, the pianist played 3 soft notes to test the room. Mom took her place in the front row. Nathan sat on her right. The chair on her left had been left empty. I sat there anyway. The service began with a prayer, followed by Warren telling everyone my father's proudest accomplishment had been raising a son who understood the importance of staying close. Beside me, Nathan stopped breathing. Across the room, Celia looked directly at my mother, and behind us, the pianist quietly closed the music Dad had asked him to play. Warren kept talking. He had known Dad for 27 years, which apparently entitled him to flatten those years into 6 minutes about lawn care, loyalty, and the moral superiority of living within 15 miles of your parents. Ray never needed much, Warren said. He valued the simple things: a good home, a dependable neighbor, a son who showed up. Nathan stared at his hands. Mom sat perfectly still between us, receiving each word as if Warren were reading from something she had approved. Maybe he was. I looked at the back of the program. The lodge had printed its logo beneath Dad's dates: a pine tree, a lake, a sunset. The sunset was represented by 3 orange lines. Dad would have hated it. He distrusted decorative sunsets almost as much as he distrusted boneless chicken wings. Warren said, "Nathan, your father knew he could always count on you." Nathan's fingers tightened around the program. He was proud of you for staying close to family, for understanding that success isn't measured by titles or how far you travel. There it was, not just praise for Nathan, a comparison built with one name removed. Several people turned toward him. An older man from Dad's bowling league nodded solemnly. Nathan did not look at any of them. Warren closed with a story about Dad driving across town during a snowstorm to help him restart a furnace. I remembered that night. Dad had called me from Warren's basement while waiting for a replacement part. I had been in Nevada preparing for an exercise. He complained that Warren owned 18 screwdrivers, and not one of them was where a reasonable person would put it. That conversation did not exist in Warren's version. Neither did I. When he stepped away from the microphone, Nathan leaned toward Mom. "You told him to say that." She kept her gaze forward. "Not now, did you?" He wrote his own remarks. "Did you tell him I was your only child?" The pianist began Mom's song before she had to answer. It was a slow, polished arrangement of "Wind Beneath My Wings." Dad had once endured that song at a wedding and whispered to me that it sounded like something a bird's attorney would write. I bit the inside of my cheek. A woman behind me sniffed loudly. Mom lowered her head. Her shoulders trembled just enough to be visible from 3 rows back. The pianist played beautifully. That was almost the problem. Every careful note made the room feel less like Dad. On the framed photo table, he grinned from beside a rented tuxedo. On another, he stood with one shoe in the lake because Nathan had pushed him off the dock. Near the end of the song, I found the edge of the airshow photograph. My blue sleeve pointed upward like a mistake the scissors had failed to remove. When the final chord faded, Mom walked to the microphone. She did not carry notes. "I met Ray at a hardware store," she said. "He told me I was buying the wrong drill bit." A ripple of laughter passed through the room. He was right, which became a problem for the next 41 years. That laugh was warmer. Even I smiled. Mom talked about their first apartment, where the heat failed every winter even though Dad repaired heating systems for a living. She talked about his habit of buying ugly coffee mugs and leaving wet towels on the bed. Her voice broke when she described the empty side of the mattress. For 3 minutes, she made him reel. That was the worst part. She could do it when she wanted. Then she said, "Ray believed love was presence. He believed we prove what matters by where we choose to be." Nathan turned his head toward her. I felt the room tilt, though nothing had moved. Mom looked straight ahead. Not at me. She didn't need to. "He gave everything to the people who built a life beside him," she continued. "That life will go on in those of us who were fortunate enough to share it." It was elegant. Not one sentence could be isolated and accused. That was another thing she did well. Mom never threw a plate when she could move it 1 inch closer to the edge every day. She returned to her seat. I could have stood. The microphone was still there. The room was full of people who had just been told my absence was a character flaw. I could have listed every Christmas I had called, every canceled flight, every leave request, every hour Dad spent waiting beside baggage claim because he always arrived too early. Instead, I stayed in the chair. Mom glanced at me almost despite herself. I saw the question in her face. "Why aren't you fighting?" Because Dad was in a sealed wooden box at the front of the room, and I would not make his memorial earn its name by becoming about us. The lodge coordinator announced that guests were invited to share brief memories. Celia stood first. She carried no paper. Ray complained professionally, she said. People laughed. He complained about my coffee, my parking lot, the prices on my menu, and the fact that I refused to serve breakfast potatoes after 11. Yet he came to my diner twice a week for 9 years, so either he loved misery or he loved the company. Both, someone called. Probably. Celia smiled. Ray also listened, quietly. You could tell him something ugly and he wouldn't rush to polish it for you. He understood that love doesn't always look neat from the outside. Her eyes moved across the front row. They paused on me, then Mom. I'll miss having somebody around who knew the difference between showing up and being seen. She sat down. Mom's hands remained folded in her lap. Dad's former supervisor told a story about him falling through a ceiling and refusing to leave until he repaired both the furnace and the hole his body had created. A neighbor described Dad spending 3 afternoons teaching her how to winterize pipes, even though she kept calling every wrench the clampy one. Then a man I did not recognize went to the microphone. He introduced himself as Daniel Price. He had worked with Dad years earlier. Most of you know Ray could stretch a 5-minute errand into an afternoon, Daniel said. About 6 years ago, he asked me to drive with him to Ohio. Wouldn't tell me why until we were already on the highway. I stopped breathing. He said his daughter was getting some kind of award and didn't want anybody making a fuss. So naturally, Ray drove 6 hours to make a fuss. A few people looked toward me. Daniel smiled. He spent the whole ceremony leaning over to ask what the ribbons meant. I didn't know. He didn't know. He was proud anyway. I remembered spotting Dad afterward. He had worn a tie with tiny yellow ducks on it and claimed it was formal because the ducks were evenly spaced. Daniel continued. On the way home, we stopped for pancakes. Ray said the ceremony was impressive, but the pancakes had stronger leadership. Laughter moved through the room. I looked down because my face had stopped obeying me. Mom's hand shifted in her lap. For half a second, I thought she might reach for mine. She adjusted her brooch. The lodge coordinator eventually thanked everyone and invited them to the dining room for food. Chairs scraped. Conversations rose carefully, the way people spoke when they weren't sure whether laughter was permitted yet. I stayed seated until the front rows emptied. Major Mercer? The pianist had come around the end of his instrument. He was a narrow man in his 60s with a gray mustache and tortoiseshell glasses. I'm Martin Kessler, he said. I knew your father from the veterans' breakfast at Celia's. I stood. Nice to meet you. He spoke about you. Mom was only a few feet away, thanking Warren. Her shoulders stiffened. Martin lowered his voice. Your father and I had a conversation a few months ago. He made a request. For today? Not officially. Ray didn't do much officially. Martin rubbed the corner of his music folder. He said if I ever found myself playing at his memorial, I was to play King of the Road. He said you'd understand why. I laughed before the tears came. Dad had taught me to change a tire when I was 20, not 16 as he later claimed. 20. I had come home from college with a flat and admitted I had called roadside assistance. He put a hand over his heart and said, "Where did I fail?" For 2 hours, he made me loosen lug nuts, jack up the car, lower it, then do everything again because he said the first attempt had contained too much swearing and not enough technique. The entire time, he sang King of the Road with only a partial understanding of the melody. Martin said, Mrs. Mercer gave me a specific program. I didn't want to disrespect her. Mom had stopped pretending not to listen. But, he continued, I also don't like breaking a promise to a dead man. They're difficult to apologize to. I wiped beneath one eye. Play it. Mom stepped toward us. Martin, this is not the time. He looked apologetic. Judith, we selected the music weeks ago. Dad had been dead 4 days. Nathan caught that too. His eyes met mine. Mom corrected herself. We discussed the music years ago. Ray knew what I wanted. This isn't your memorial, I said. Her face hardened. Everything does not have to become a contest between you and me. It never was. Martin stood with his folder against his chest, wishing himself elsewhere. Nathan said, Let him play it, Mom. She looked at him. It's a song, he said. Dad asked for it. He was joking. so let people laugh. For a moment, I thought she might forbid it. Then she noticed the guests still lingering in the next room, close enough to hear raised voices. She gave a tiny shrug. Do whatever you want. Martin returned to the piano. The opening notes were light, almost playful. Nothing like the polished grief Mom had ordered. Conversations quieted. People turned back toward the room. Daniel Price laughed softly. A man from the bowling league began tapping 2 fingers against his leg. Nathan sat in the chair beside me. Dad's song filled the lodge. It did not prove I had loved him more. It did not prove Mom had loved him less. It simply sounded like him, stubborn, unpolished, a little inappropriate, and certain there was still somewhere else worth going. When it ended, nobody applauded at first. Then Celia said, "That's more like it." The room exhaled. During the reception, people came to me with pieces of Dad I had not known he carried around in public. A former coworker said Dad kept clippings about one of my disaster relief missions taped inside his locker. A woman from the Veterans Breakfast told me he had once made everyone delay ordering until he finished a video call with me. Daniel said Dad talked about my work constantly but never explained it correctly. He told people you coordinated airplanes, Daniel said. Sometimes I coordinate people who coordinate airplanes. That's less catchy. Nathan stood beside me for all of it. He had stopped trying to explain Mom. When the last guests began leaving, I found my carry-on in the lodge office and asked him whether the room at the house still had the blue quilt. He looked toward Mom. She was stacking leftover programs. "The guest room's full," she said without turning around. "Full of what?" "Things from your father's office." "I couldn't leave them scattered everywhere. I can move them. I'm not having the house disrupted tonight." Nathan said, "She can stay with Brooke and me." His wife had gone home earlier to prepare food for the family. Their spare room was also Nathan's office, but he was already reaching for his phone. Mom placed the programs into a box with my name missing 54 times. She wanted to arrive without warning, she said. She can make her own arrangements. Celia, carrying an empty pie dish, stopped in the doorway. "I have a room," she said. Mom looked up. Celia smiled at me. "The apartment above the diner. The plumbing complains, and the wallpaper may cause dizziness, but nobody's been cut out of it." Mom's expression suggested Celia had offered to put me in a drainage ditch. "That won't be necessary," she said. Celia shifted the pie dish to her other hand. "I wasn't asking you. I'm sure Elena can find a hotel. Sunday night during the lake festival? She can find one if she's willing to sleep in the next county." "I can stay with Nathan," I said. Nathan was already texting Brooke. "She says yes." Mom looked at him. "I thought you were staying with me tonight." "I can still stay. Lena can use our place. So I'm supposed to spend my first night alone while you drive your sister back and forth?" The question landed exactly where she aimed it. Nathan lowered his phone. "No, I'll stay." He looked at me, apology already forming. I saved him from saying it. Celia's room is fine. Mom picked up another stack of programs. There, settled. Celia watched her for a moment. "Your talent for hospitality remains unmatched, Judith, and yours for involving yourself where you don't belong. Ray belonged at my counter twice a week. I'm involved." I picked up my carry-on before the conversation could become the second service of the day. Celia's car was an old green Subaru that smelled like cinnamon gum and French fries. The passenger seat contained 3 restaurant supply catalogs, a canvas grocery bag, and a screwdriver. She moved everything except the screwdriver. "That stays," she said. "Emergency repairs, emergency customers." I put my bag in the back and climbed in. The diner was less than 2 miles from the lodge, on the edge of town where the road widened and businesses acquired larger parking lots than they deserved. Celia's diner glowed in red neon above the windows. One letter flickered, making it briefly Celia's Diner. Dad had sent me pictures of the sign, usually with a caption about failed maintenance standards. "You knew my father well?" I asked. Celia started the car. Well enough to know he'd be furious. I let the eye flicker this long. He offered to fix it. He offered to stand on my roof with a ladder tied to the chimney using an extension cord. I declined. That was wise. He called me a coward. That was affection. I figured. She pulled onto the road. The lodge disappeared behind us. For the first time since landing, no one was asking me to account for where I had been. The silence felt so unfamiliar that I nearly apologized for it. Celia turned into the diner lot and parked beside a dented pickup. The apartment has been empty since my night manager moved in with her girlfriend, she said. Sheets are clean. Towels are suspicious but clean. There's coffee downstairs at 5. I can pay you. You can pay me when the eye works. That feels like a trap. It is. Your father raised concerns about my business model. The apartment entrance was around back, up a narrow metal staircase. Celia had not exaggerated the wallpaper. Orange flowers climbed green vines against a yellow background. Looking at it too long created the sense that the walls were moving closer. I think this room was designed during a national emergency, I said. Previous owner's wife picked it. He drank. There was a small sofa, a table with one short leg, and a bedroom overlooking the diner's dumpsters. Someone had placed a fresh bar of soap beside the bathroom sink. 2 folded towels sat on the bed. Celia put the key on the counter. Breakfast is on me, she said. You don't have to feed me. I don't. I own food. It's different. At the door, she stopped. Your father wasn't ashamed of you. I looked at her. I don't know everything happening in that family, she said, but I know what he said when he sat at my counter. What did he say? Mostly that airplane tickets were theft and you worked too much. That sounds right. He also knew what time it was wherever you were, kept it written on the back of his grocery list. My throat tightened. Celia touched the door frame. Get some sleep. After she left, I unpacked with no reason to. Toothbrush by the sink, dress over the shower rod. Uniform hung inside a closet that smelled faintly of fryer oil. Dad's keys went on the nightstand. His voicemail remained on my phone. 27 seconds. I pressed the screen until his name filled it. My thumb hovered over the play button. Then Nathan called. I answered too quickly. Mom wants to know if you took the air show picture. No, it's gone. Check under the programs. A muffled conversation followed. I heard Mom insist she had already checked. Something scraped. Nathan came back. It was under the programs. Military intelligence. You're enjoying this. More than I should. He sighed, but some tension had left his voice. Brooke packed a bag for you. Clothes, shampoo, that moisturizer she says you like. I'm capable of buying shampoo. I told her that. And she said you use hotel shampoo like it's a moral principle. That woman knows too much. I'll bring it tomorrow. I sat on the edge of the bed. How's Mom? Cleaning. That wasn't the question. It's the only answer I have. In the background, a cabinet door slammed. Nathan lowered his voice. She wants to start clearing Dad's office in the morning. Tell her to wait. I want to help. I did. And she said you have your own things to deal with. What things? Work, travel, whatever she can use without naming it. I have emergency leave. For how long? 14 days approved. I'm requesting another 5 from my accrued leave. Mom thinks you're going back Wednesday. I lay back and stared at the ceiling. Why would she think that? She says you never stay. Did you correct her? Yes. I waited. He said, eventually. Good night, Nathan. Lena. What? I'm glad you made it. The words sat between us, awkward and sincere. Me too, I said. I did not sleep much. At 4:15, a delivery truck backed toward the diner with an electronic beep loud enough to warn 3 counties. At 4:40, someone dropped a metal pan downstairs. At 5, the smell of bacon climbed through the floor and made sleep irrelevant. I showered, put on jeans and a dark sweater, and went downstairs. Celia was pouring coffee for 2 men at the counter. She pointed to an empty stool without interrupting her argument about whether an interception had ruined a football game that occurred 11 years earlier. A plate appeared in front of me 5 minutes later. Eggs, toast, bacon, and potatoes. I didn't order. You looked indecisive. I was reading the menu. Same thing. The coffee was terrible. Dad had been right. I drank all of it. At 6:30, I wrote a list on a paper napkin. Call travel office, confirm leave, help with Dad's office, inventory workshop, contact utilities, find out what Nathan needed, get memorial clothes cleaned, buy shampoo before Brooke could use it as evidence. Lists had always made grief look smaller. By 8, I had confirmed 19 days at home. By 8:15, I had called Nathan twice with no answer. At 8:20, Brooke came into the diner carrying a canvas overnight bag and wearing the expression of someone arriving to negotiate a hostage release. She saw me at the counter and set the bag on the stool beside mine. "I brought the expensive moisturizer," she said. I was told. "I also brought clothes because your brother said you arrived with one dress and a uniform. I have another shirt. Then I've insulted your abundance." Brooke had a blunt black bob and the calmest voice in the family. She had been married to Nathan for 11 years, which meant she could turn silence into a controlled substance. She ordered tea. "Is he still at Mom's?" I asked. He fell asleep on the couch around 3. She kept finding reasons to go into the kitchen and check whether he was there. That sounds like her. It sounds like somebody terrified of waking up alone. The answer irritated me because it was true. Brooke stirred honey into her tea. It can be true and still not excuse what she did. That also sounds like you. I'm very balanced before 9. I folded my napkin list. "I'm going to the house. I'll drive you. I can get a ride share. You can. Or you can accept one ordinary favor without treating it like a loss of operational control." Celia passed behind us carrying a stack of plates. I like her. "She usually has better timing," I said. Brooke drove me to the house in her compact SUV. Dad's street looked offensively normal. Trash bins stood at the curb. Somebody had left a sprinkler running. The maple tree in the front yard still leaned toward the driveway because Dad had refused to let anyone trim it correctly. A white pickup was parked in front of the garage. "Whose truck is that?" I asked. Brooke shook her head. The garage door was open. A man in a brown work jacket was loading cardboard boxes into the bed. I recognized him after a moment as Dennis Hall from 3 houses down. He saw me and smiled uncertainly. "Lena, sorry about your dad. Thank you." He lifted another box. Black marker across the side read, "Hand tools." I stopped beside the truck. "What are you doing?" "Your mom said Ray's stuff was up for grabs before the donation people came." Brooke looked toward the house. Dennis lowered the box. She said family had taken what they wanted. I reached inside. Dad's battered socket set sat beneath 2 hammers and a coil of orange extension cord. The red metal case had a dent near the latch from the time he backed over it in 2009 and insisted the driveway had shifted. I knew every socket in that set. 3 were replacements because I had lost the originals while learning to change my brakes. Mom opened the front door. She was already dressed, with lipstick on as if she had prepared for witnesses. "I asked you to wait," I said. "I've been waiting 4 days to deal with this house. You told Dennis we took what we wanted. Nathan did." Dennis raised both hands. "I can put everything back." Mom's gaze moved to him. "I told you it was yours, and I'm telling him those tools weren't yours to give. They were my husband's. They were Dad's. I know who your father was." "Then you know he promised me that socket set." Her face went still. Brooke quietly took the box from Dennis and placed it on the driveway. Mom stepped onto the porch. "You don't get to arrive after he's dead and claim the pieces of him you find useful." I looked at the open garage. Whole sections of the pegboard were bare. Pale outlines showed where tools had hung for years. Dad's portable compressor was gone. So was the small green toolbox he kept beneath the workbench. This was not the first box. "How many people came?" I asked. Mom crossed her arms. Dennis looked miserable. I turned to him. "How many?" 4, maybe 5. Judith started calling people yesterday morning, before the memorial. Brooke stood beside Dad's socket set with one hand on the dented red case. Mom lifted her chin. You wanted to come home, Elena. She looked past me at the emptied garage. Now you have something to do. Dennis cleared his throat. I really don't want to be in the middle of this. You aren't, I said. Mom gave a short laugh. He's standing in my driveway while you accuse me of stealing. I didn't say stealing. You didn't have to. Dennis reached into his truck bed. I'll put the boxes back. Mom stepped off the porch. Dennis, my husband told you that you could have those tools. Dad had loaned Dennis a wrench once and spent 7 months announcing that the wrench had entered witness protection. No, he didn't, I said. You were not here for every conversation. Neither were you. Dennis studied the pavement. Ray said I could have the extension cord if he ever forgot to ask for it back. Despite everything, I almost smiled. That sounds like him, Brooke said. Dennis pulled the orange cord from the box and held it up. I don't even need it. Keep it, I said. He'd be furious if you returned it after that long. Dennis looked at Mom for permission, then seemed to realize that was the entire problem. He set the hammers and sockets set on the driveway, kept the cord, and unloaded 2 more boxes. Dad's cordless drill was in one. His handheld work light was in the other, wrapped in an old dish towel Mom had complained was missing. When the truck left, I carried the socket set into the garage. Mom blocked the workbench. You cannot simply take things. I'm putting it back. That set belongs to the estate. Then it belonged to the estate when you gave it to Dennis. I am the surviving spouse. And I'm not arguing about who owns the toaster. Dad promised me this. When? After I backed over it. You backed over it? He claimed I did. I maintain the case was already dented. Brooke lifted one end to examine the crushed corner. This looks run over. Thank you, forensic specialist. Mom did not move. Your father promised people things all the time. I know. That's why we were supposed to sort through his workshop before you emptied it. I needed space. For what? She looked around the garage as if an answer might be hanging on the pegboard. Nathan appeared in the doorway from the kitchen wearing yesterday's shirt. One side of his hair stood up. He looked at the boxes on the driveway, then at the bare sections of wall. What happened? Mom turned toward him. You said you didn't want any of this. I said I didn't want the table saw. You told me to do what I thought best. I meant about the table saw. You cannot tell me to handle everything and then object to how I handle it. Nathan rubbed both hands down his face. I understood suddenly why he looked older. Mom didn't just ask people for help. She gave them an undefined job, made every possible decision wrong, then used their mistake as proof that she had always been alone. He looked at the workbench. Where's the table saw? Walter Briggs took it. Nathan dropped his hands. I was going to sell it. You just said you didn't want it. That does not mean give it to Walter Briggs. Dad hated Walter. He did not hate him. He called him the human receipt. Dad had called Walter that because he itemized every favor he had ever done. Mom leaned against the workbench. This is exactly what I couldn't face. The two of you fighting over every screwdriver while I'm trying to breathe in a house that still smells like him. We're not fighting over screwdrivers, Nathan said. Not yet. I opened the socket case. The smallest compartment was empty. Dad had lost the 1/4-inch socket years ago and replaced it with one from a different brand. The replacement was gone too. I shut the lid. Who else came? I asked. Mom stared at me. I'm not giving you a list of people to harass. I'm not going to harass anyone. You turned his memorial into a correction. I sat in a chair. You changed the music. Dad changed the music. I just listened to him. He made one offhand joke to Martin. Then it was the only joke of his that made it into the service. Nathan looked toward the driveway. Brooke went to him and touched his arm. I took a pad of yellow paper from the shelf over the workbench. Dad kept pens in an old soup can. The first 2 were dry. The third worked if I held it almost sideways. What are you doing? Mom asked. Inventory. Of what? What's left? Her mouth tightened. This is not one of your operations. No. If it were, someone would have signed for the missing equipment. Nathan turned away, but I saw his shoulders move. Mom pointed toward the door. "If you're going to mock me in my own home, you can leave. I'm not mocking you. You always do it with that tone." "What tone?" "That cold, superior voice you use when everyone else is being human." The pen stopped in my hand. Brooke said, "Judith, that's not fair. I don't remember asking you." "No," Brooke said. "You usually just tell me what Nathan thinks." The silence that followed had edges. Nathan looked at his wife with equal parts alarm and admiration. Mom straightened. "I am going inside. I need to see Dad's office," I said. "Not today. You said you wanted it cleared this morning." "I changed my mind." "When?" "When you turned up with a checklist." She went through the kitchen door and locked it behind her. Nathan tried the knob. "Mom, we heard her walk away." Brooke looked at me. "Is this normal? For our family? For people?" "No," Nathan and I said together. He sat on Dad's rolling shop stool. It drifted backward because one wheel never locked properly. "I told her you were staying 19 days, he said. "I know. She said the Air Force wouldn't allow that. She's developed strong opinions about leave policy. I told her you had enough accrued. That was your first mistake. Facts make her competitive." He smiled, then lost it. "I should have stopped her," he said. "You were asleep. Yesterday. She told me she was going to call a few people about the garage. I thought she meant later. You were dealing with the memorial. So were you." I wrote socket set. Returned at the top of the paper. Under it, I listed the empty outlines on the pegboard. 2 pipe wrenches, adjustable wrench, claw hammer, ball peen hammer, hacksaw, cordless driver. Dad had traced some tools with black marker so he could tell what was missing, a system he ignored whenever he was the one who misplaced something. Nathan joined me. "Portable compressor," he said. I saw the empty space. Green toolbox. Gone. "Work light?" "Returned." He pointed beneath the bench. "The jack stands are missing." I crouched. 2 clean rectangles interrupted the dust. Who would take used jack stands? Somebody who doesn't know Dad dropped a transmission on one. He what? It was fine. Was he under the car? Not exactly. That means yes. It mostly missed him. Brooke stood at the open garage door. "The two of you have very different standards for reassuring information. We worked down the wall. It was easier than discussing the memorial, easier than saying Dad's name in a room where I expected him to come through the kitchen carrying a mug. Tools had shapes. Empty spaces had edges. I could write them down. Grief did not stay inside edges, but I kept trying." Brooke retrieved a cardboard box from the driveway and found a roll of blue painter's tape. She labeled the returned items so Mom couldn't claim we had taken them. Nathan called Walter about the table saw. Walter answered on speaker after 1 ring. "I was told it was free and clear," he said. "It's not," Nathan replied. "I already got it into my basement. It's been 20 minutes. I move efficiently." Dad had been right about him. Nathan arranged to pick it up that evening. Walter requested reimbursement for gasoline. He lived 4 blocks away. "I'll give you $2, Nathan said. "My truck gets poor mileage." "You chose the truck, Walter." When the call ended, Brooke laughed so hard she had to lean against the garage frame. Even I laughed. It felt disloyal for half a second, then necessary. Dennis could remember 2 people who had come before him. We called both. Mrs. Harkins from the corner had Dad's portable compressor. She offered to bring it back, but admitted she had no idea what it was. She thought it cleaned carpets. A man from Dad's former job had the green toolbox and sounded embarrassed enough to return it without argument. The other missing items had gone to donation pickup. Mom had placed 3 boxes at the curb before dawn. We did not know which charity truck took them. Nathan stared at the list. Why would she do this before the memorial? She didn't want me to have a chance to choose anything. That's not what I asked. It's the answer. He flinched. Brooke came closer to him. She told people Lena wasn't coming. If the garage was cleared first, she never had to explain why nothing had been saved. Nathan looked toward the locked kitchen door. She wouldn't do that. Neither Brooke nor I answered. His face changed as he heard his own words, not because he stopped believing them, because he recognized how often he had used them. Mom's voice floated through the open kitchen window. She was on the phone. "Yes, Carol," she said. She appeared in uniform just before the service. No warning at all. Nathan stood. I put a hand out. "Don't. She's lying again. And you confronting her while Aunt Carol listens will make her stop?" "Inside," Mom continued, "I'm trying to be gracious. Elena is going through the garage now, making accusations about Ray's things." I walked to the window. Nathan caught my wrist lightly. "You just told me not to. I'm inconsistent under pressure." Mom said, "You know how she gets. Everything has to be organized and controlled." "Judith," Brooke called through the screen, "can you ask Carol if she wants the broken jack stand?" The phone conversation stopped. Brooke smiled pleasantly at us. "What? I'm helping." The kitchen door unlocked a minute later. Mom stepped into the garage with her phone still in her hand. She looked at the labels, the inventory, and the boxes we had recovered. "You have made this into a production," she said. "No," I replied. "You made it into a scavenger hunt." Her gaze landed on the socket set. For someone who didn't have time to come home, she said, "You certainly found time to claim that." I closed the yellow pad. "What do you need me to lose?" I asked, "before you believe I loved him?" Mom looked at me as if I had asked the question in a language she refused to speak. "I never said you didn't love him. You told me he knew where he ranked. That is not the same thing. You left me out of his obituary. It was a memorial program. You gave away the things he promised me. One socket set. You told people I chose not to come." Her phone screen went dark in her hand. "I told them you were deployed," she said. "You told them I wasn't coming. You weren't supposed to." The words slipped out before she could shape them into something safer. Nathan moved between us, not dramatically, just enough that Mom had to look at him instead of me. "Why?" he asked. She stared at her son. Why wasn't she supposed to come? I could not handle uncertainty. "That's not uncertainty. You gave her the wrong day. She has missed things before. She was deployed. She is always deployed, or training, or delayed, or waiting for someone above her to give permission to attend her own life." I stepped around Nathan. "You think I don't know that? I think you enjoy being needed somewhere no one can question you." The garage seemed to contract. Mom's eyes were bright now, but her voice remained precise. "You come home in a uniform and everybody thanks you for your sacrifice. Your father drove across 3 states to watch you stand on a stage. Nathan spent 10 years fixing what broke in this house, and no one handed him a medal. I never asked Dad to drive to Ohio. No, you never had to ask. Nathan said, 'Don't use me for this. I am defending you.' From what? From always being second." He shook his head. "I wasn't second. You were here. That's geography. That is exactly what she would say." "No," he said. "It's what I'm saying." Mom's face shifted. She had spent years speaking for Nathan so successfully that his own voice sounded like betrayal. He glanced at me. "I've been angry at Lena. I'm still angry about some things." I waited. He looked back at Mom. "But you don't get to turn my anger into permission to erase her." Mom's chin trembled once. Then she pointed at the socket set. "Take it." I did not move. "Take everything you came for," she said. "Then you can both stop acting as if I'm standing between you and your father." I didn't come for things. Then leave them. That was the trap. If I took the set Dad promised me, I proved I was greedy. If I left it, she could give it away and call my silence indifference. Dad would have recognized the trap. He would have made a joke about needing a larger wrench. I picked up the case. Mom smiled without warmth. "There." "Say it," I said. "What?" "Whatever you think this proves. I don't need to prove anything." "Neither do I." I carried the socket set to Brooke's car. Nathan followed me to the driveway. "Don't go. I'm not staying here while she auditions new meanings for everything I do. We can work in the garage. I'll deal with her. You've been dealing with her for years. That's unfair. It is. I'm still leaving. He looked back toward the house. You're going to stay with her, I said. She shouldn't be alone. I didn't say she should. You say things like that in a way that makes it clear what you mean. I put the socket set in the cargo area. Maybe that runs in the family. Brooke handed me her keys. Take the car. What? I'm staying to help Nathan. You'll be trapped here. I married into this voluntarily. My judgment is already on record. Nathan managed a tired smile. I took the keys. At the end of the driveway, I looked back. Mom stood inside the garage with her arms folded. Nathan and Brooke were outside. 3 adults separated by 6 feet of concrete and 40 years of habit. I drove to the diner. The breakfast crowd had thinned. Celia was wiping down the pie case with enough force to suggest the glass had offended her. You eat? She asked. Yes. Recently. Define recently. She pointed toward a booth. Sit. I'm not hungry. Then sit near the food without forming a commitment. I sat. She brought me soup and half a grilled cheese. I ate all of it while claiming every few minutes that I was done. My phone rang before I finished. Belle's name appeared on the screen. I answered. What happened? Good morning to you too, Major. It's afternoon. Time is a colonial construct. What happened? A shipment got bumped. Pierce wants the revised schedule, and Lieutenant Kwan insists she can handle it. Can she? She made a spreadsheet. That wasn't my question. Belle paused. Yes, she can handle it. Then let her. Another pause. You sure? I looked through the diner window at Brooke's car. Dad's red socket case was visible through the back glass. Yes? I figured you'd want the details. I do. That's why you shouldn't give them to me. Belle was quiet long enough that I checked whether the call had dropped. Then he said, How was the service? My mother left me out of the program. Like a typo? Like a strategy. I'm sorry, thank you. You want me to say something aggressively supportive? Please don't. I've got several options. Delete them. I'll save them for a crisis. He told me the team had sent flowers. I thanked him, then told him not to call unless something required a decision only I could make. You know that means Pierce will call you in 8 minutes to ask what qualifies. Tell him you've lost my number. He has email. Tell him we lost the internet. Internationally? Be creative. When we hung up, Celia slid into the opposite side of the booth. You could have solved whatever that was, she said. Probably. But you didn't. I'm on leave. Your father would be impressed. My father called work from his hospital bed after gallbladder surgery. He would be hypocritically impressed. That sounded more accurate. I carried the socket set upstairs and put it beneath the small kitchen table. Without the garage around it, the case looked smaller. Not an inheritance, not justice, just old metal containing pieces designed to fit other pieces. Dad's voicemail was still waiting. I put the phone face down. Brooke came back for her car shortly before 1. She found me sitting on the metal stairs outside the apartment with a paper cup of Celia's coffee. Did Nathan go home? I asked. He's still with Judith. Of course. She asked him to stay another night. She has a guest room now? Brooke sat beside me. The stairs vibrated. She cleared enough of it for him. I laughed once. I know, Brooke said. No, it's fine. She only lacked space while I was the person needing it. She wants him where she can see him. She's always wanted that. Brooke took my coffee, tasted it, and made a face. This is hostile. Celia says the bitterness shows character. She's confusing coffee with people. We watched a delivery driver roll a dolly toward the back door. Brooke said, When Nathan and I first got married, Judith called every Sunday at 8. That sounds restrained. If we didn't answer, she called again at 8:03. At 8:10, she called me separately to ask if Nathan was upset with her. He hates talking on the phone. She knows. It was never about talking. I waited. If Nathan needed help, she helped before he could finish asking. Brooke continued. If he disagreed with her, she reminded him how much she helped. It's a very efficient system. He stayed. He loves them. So do I. I know. I took back the coffee. Brooke looked toward the upstairs window. Judith rewards whoever confirms her version of things. Nathan became the good son because it kept the temperature down. You became the selfish daughter because you weren't here to object. He objected yesterday, and today she cleared a room for him. The simplicity of it made my chest hurt. My phone buzzed with a message from Mom. You may come at 1 tomorrow to review your father's office. 1 hour. Nathan must be present. I showed Brooke. She makes grief sound like a dental appointment, she said. At 12:55 the next day, Nathan and I stood on the front porch together. Mom opened the door at exactly 1. The house smelled like furniture polish and Dad's coffee, though there was no coffee brewing. His jacket still hung from a hook near the kitchen. Not the old flight jacket from his service years, the brown canvas one with the frayed cuff he wore to the hardware store. I touched the sleeve as I passed. Mom noticed. The guest room, she said. Boxes filled half the bed and most of the floor. She had labeled them office, clothes, personal, trash, and Elena. I looked at the last one. It's things he kept from you, Mom said. Nathan stepped into the room behind me. The Elena box was open. Inside were postcards I had sent from bases, airport receipts, printed photographs, and a coffee mug that said Proud Air Force Dad in chipped blue letters. I picked up the mug. I gave him this as a joke. He used it every morning. I know. Mom stood in the doorway. He used it on our anniversary trip, too. I set it down carefully. What does that mean? It means you were always there, even when you weren't. Nathan said, Mom, stop. No. She wants honesty. I want to sort Dad's things. You want the pieces that make you feel loved. I looked at her. What other pieces are there? Mom's face folded for a moment. Not theatrically, not usefully. She looked older and suddenly exhausted. On our 40th anniversary, she said, You called him during dinner. You were upset about someone in your unit. He left the restaurant table and stood outside with you for 45 minutes. I remembered the call. One of my people had been injured in an accident. I had blamed myself. Dad listened until I could breathe normally. I didn't know where he was. He didn't tell you. I would have hung up, I know. The answer surprised me. Mom touched the silver brooch at her throat. That was the problem, she said. Ray protected you from ever knowing what loving you cost anybody else. I looked at the chipped mug between us. What did loving me cost you? Mom's eyes sharpened. You heard what I said. I heard that Dad answered the phone. During our anniversary dinner. I didn't know that. That was convenient. For him, maybe. Not for me. He made the decision not to tell me where he was. He knew you needed him, and you needed him too. For a second, neither of us moved. Nathan picked up a stack of old heating supply catalogs and set them on the floor. Dad could have gone back inside. Mom turned on him. You don't know what that night was like. No, because you told me you had a lovely dinner. What was I supposed to say? The truth would be exciting. She ignored him. I pulled a chair away from the desk. Dad had kept it long after one of the wheels broke, so it leaned slightly to the left. The seat cushion exhaled when I sat. Did you tell him you were angry? I asked. I should not have had to. There it was. The central operating principle of my mother's life. If he loved you, I said, he should have known. He did know. Then why didn't he come back to the table? Her eyes filled. Because you were crying. I had cried so quietly that night I thought Dad hadn't noticed. I had been sitting alone in my office, the lights off, blaming myself for approving a schedule change that put one of my people on the road at the wrong time. Dad never told me to stop. He asked whether I would hold anyone else responsible for a crash caused by a drunk driver. I said no. He asked why I was the only person in the world who had to control traffic from 300 miles away. Then he told me to breathe. I looked down at my hands. Mom said, You got him whenever you needed him. The rest of us got whatever was left. Nathan went still. The rest of us? He asked. She turned away. That isn't what I meant. It's what you said. You lived 10 minutes away. So I didn't need him. You had him. Did I? Mom stared at him. Nathan sat on the edge of the bed, pushing an office box aside with his knee. Every time Dad and I did something, he talked about Lena. We'd be fixing the sink, and he'd tell me about the sink in her apartment. We'd watch a game, and he'd tell me what time she had to wake up. He kept one of her coins in his wallet and showed it to people who had already seen it. I had given Dad a squadron coin 12 years earlier. It was not especially rare or attractive. He was proud of her, Mom said. I know. But I was here, and sometimes it felt like being here made me furniture. I always appreciated you. You needed me. That's not the same thing. Mom sat down on the opposite side of the bed. Our 1-hour appointment continued ticking on the clock above Dad's desk, but none of us looked at it. Nathan rubbed his palms against his jeans. I resented you sometimes, he said to me. I know. No, you assumed. I'm telling you. I waited. When Dad drove to Ohio for your commendation, I was replacing the water heater here. He asked me to do it because he didn't want Mom home alone with contractors. Mom opened her mouth. Nathan held up a hand. I said yes. Nobody forced me. But he got home and talked for 2 days about the ceremony and the pancakes. He never asked how the water heater went. I remembered calling Nathan that weekend. He'd been short with me and said he was busy. I thought you were angry because Dad spent money on the trip, I said. I was angry because he came back with a picture of you on his phone and didn't notice I'd burned my arm. Mom looked at him. You never told us that. He rolled up his sleeve. A pale mark crossed the inside of his forearm. You were there, he said. You handed me the bandages. Her face went blank. Brooke had described the system. Help before you could ask, record the help. Forget the person receiving it. I said, I'm sorry. Nathan shrugged. I mean it. I know. No, don't do that. Don't make it easier because you're uncomfortable. His mouth twitched. You don't have to make every apology difficult. Apparently, I do. That earned a real laugh from him, brief and surprised. Mom watched us with an expression I could not read. Maybe grief, maybe exclusion, maybe anger that we had found a way to speak without her translating. The clock clicked to 1:47. She stood. We should finish. Nothing had been resolved. That was probably why she wanted the boxes closed. I lifted the proud Air Force Dad mug. Do you want to keep this? Mom looked at it. You gave it to him. That wasn't my question. Her fingers touched the brooch again. It belongs in the house. Okay. I placed it on Dad's desk instead of in my box. Mom seemed surprised. The box labeled Elena contained things from my last several visits, a paperback I had forgotten, 2 scarves, an old pair of running shoes, postcards Dad apparently removed from the refrigerator but never threw away. I took the shoes because the diner stairs were slippery. I left the rest. Dad's brown canvas jacket stayed by the kitchen. At the front closet, I noticed a black and gold patch through a gap between coats. Is that his flight jacket? Mom pulled it out. The leather was cracked at the shoulders. Dad had worn it during his years in the Air National Guard, long before I enlisted. It had never fit him quite right after he turned 50, but he refused to get rid of it. When I was younger, I believed the jacket meant Dad had spent his life flying airplanes. In reality, he had spent 6 years servicing ground equipment and complaining that pilots left coffee cups everywhere. Mom held it by the collar. You should take this, she said. I didn't reach for it. Are you sure? You're the one who followed him into service. Dad had always corrected that. I enlisted because I wanted to. He was simply the reason the possibility had never frightened me. I can take it later, I said. I'm at Celia's. I don't want it smelling like bacon grease. For the first time since I arrived, Mom almost smiled. Ray would, she said. He considered bacon grease a protective coating. Her mouth softened. Then she put the jacket back in the closet. Nathan and I left 10 minutes after our allotted hour. We spent the afternoon retrieving Dad's table saw from Walter Briggs. Walter met us at his basement door holding a handwritten fuel calculation. $4.80, he said. You live 4 blocks away, Nathan replied. That includes loading time. Gasoline is not consumed by time, idling. You turned your truck off. Walter looked wounded. Are we going to argue during a bereavement? I handed him $5. Nathan stared at me. You're enabling him. I have 19 days of leave and no intention of spending one in Walter's basement. Walter offered me 20 cents change. I told him to invest it. The table saw weighed more than Dad remembered and less than Nathan claimed. We got it into Brooke's SUV with a blanket under one side and both of us swearing under our breath. On the drive back, Nathan said, Mom told me you were angry about how much time Dad spent with me. When did she tell you that? Years ago. What exactly did she say? That you felt replaced? I watched houses pass beyond the window. Did that sound like me? You weren't around enough for me to know. It was honest. That made it harder to reject. I wasn't angry he spent time with you, I said. I was jealous you could call him when something broke. You called him from other countries. I know. He would ask me to describe the sound my car was making over the phone. He did that with everyone. He was terrible at it. He always decided it was the alternator. It was never the alternator. Nathan smiled. Then he said, I should have called you more. I could have called you. You were busy. So were you. Not the same kind of busy. I turned toward him. That sentence is how she did it. His hands tightened on the wheel. We drove the rest of the way without talking. At the house, Mom would not open the garage door. She said she was tired and did not want the table saw brought back inside. We took it to Nathan's instead. Brooke had ordered pizza. The three of us ate at their kitchen counter, where Nathan kept trying to set his slice down on a pile of unopened mail. It was the first meal I had shared with my brother in almost a year. We did not discuss Mom for 23 minutes. Nathan told me about a man at work who had accidentally emailed a complaint about the company president to the company president. Brooke showed me photographs of their attempted bathroom renovation, which had stalled after Nathan removed the sink and discovered a pipe apparently installed by a drunk octopus. I told them about Bell's 3 ex-wives and his belief that time was colonial. For a while, grief sat at the 4th place and behaved itself. My phone buzzed near the end of dinner. It was a message from Mom. I have scheduled a charity pickup for your father's remaining clothes tomorrow. If you want anything, speak now. I replied immediately. I want the flight jacket. We discussed this today. The typing indicator appeared, vanished, then appeared again. That is not practical. It will deteriorate in storage. It isn't practical now. A full minute passed. I already placed it in the donation bag. I called her. She declined the call. I called again. This time she answered. Take it out, I said. The bag has been collected. You said the pickup was tomorrow. For the remaining clothes. Warren took 1 load to the veterans resale shop this afternoon. You promised me the jacket. I said you should take it. You chose not to. I said I would take it later. You always say later. The line went quiet. Behind me, Nathan had stopped talking. Brooke set down her glass. Which shop? I asked. Mom exhaled slowly. I don't know. Ask Warren. I am not calling him at night over an old coat. Then give me his number. You have made your father's death entirely about possession. No. You made possession the price of remembering him. I am done being spoken to this way. She hung up. Nathan was already searching his phone for Warren's number. I called 3 times. No answer. Then Nathan's phone rang. He put it on speaker. Mom did not say hello. If you help her retrieve that jacket, she told him, do not come back here tonight. Nathan looked at me across the kitchen. The old choice entered the room and took its usual seat. Nathan picked up his phone. Mom, are you asking me to choose between helping Lana and staying with you? I am asking you to stop encouraging this. That wasn't my question. You know what I mean. Yes, he said. That's why I'm making you say it. The line stayed silent. Brooke stood beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. She did not take the phone or whisper instructions. She just waited. Mom said, your sister has been home 3 days, and this family is already divided. It was divided before she got off the plane. I looked away. That sounds like something Brooke told you. Brooke's eyebrows rose. Nathan shut his eyes for a second. No, it sounds like something I should have figured out sooner. So now I'm the enemy. No one said that. You didn't need to. The same phrase she had used in the garage. If Mom felt something, somebody else must have communicated it. Her feelings arrived as evidence. Nathan took the phone off speaker and held it to his ear. "I'm going home with my wife tonight," he said. "I'll call you in the morning. If you leave me alone, you aren't alone, because I help Lena. She doesn't need your help. She has never needed any of us." He looked at me. I expected him to soften it, explain me, tell Mom that of course I needed her in some abstract way that would cost nothing. Instead, he said, "Maybe she learned not to." Mom hung up. Nathan remained standing with the phone against his ear. Brooke touched his wrist. He lowered it. "You okay?" she asked. "No." "Good answer." He sat on one of the counter stools and stared at the pizza box. I wanted to thank him. The words felt dangerous. Gratitude would make his choice sound like a favor to me instead of a boundary he had drawn for himself. So I said, "Warren will call back." Nathan gave me a tired look. "That's what you've got? I have other statements prepared. Any of them normal?" "No." Brooke pushed the pizza toward him. "Eat before you both begin communicating through equipment lists." Warren returned my call at 9:17. His voice was thick with sleep or bourbon. Possibly both. "I dropped the clothes at Liberty Resale," he said. "Around 5. Was the flight jacket in the bag? Black leather? Gold patch?" "Yes. I saw it." "Did you hand the bag to someone? They have a donation door in back. Fellow took it inside. Do you know his name?" "No, but he had a ponytail." Nathan was writing the details on an envelope. "Did my mother tell you I wanted the jacket?" I asked. Warren hesitated. "She said you looked through everything." "That wasn't my question." He sighed. "She said you'd had your chance." "Thank you." "Lena, your mother is going through hell. I know. She's not thinking clearly. She was clear enough to arrange transportation. I don't want to be involved in a family dispute. You gave remarks about our family at Dad's memorial. That was different. You said his proudest accomplishment was raising a son who stayed close." Warren became quiet. "Did Dad ever say that to you?" "Your mother gave me some ideas. She was worried I wouldn't know what to say." "You knew him 27 years. Grief is complicated. So is accuracy." He cleared his throat. "The shop opens at 9. When the call ended, Nathan put the envelope down. "He didn't write those remarks," he said. "He wrote some of them. The part about success not being titles or distance. I'd guess Mom." He leaned back. "I sat there while he said it. So did I. You knew it was aimed at you. Everyone with a neck knew. I thought maybe I was imagining it. That's how she survives." He looked toward the dark window. "What does that mean?" "She makes the blade small enough that complaining about it sounds dramatic." Brooke folded the pizza box. "That may be the most accurate description of Judith I've ever heard." Nathan was quiet for a long time. "She loves us," he said. Neither of us disagreed. That was what made the blade difficult to explain. Liberty Resale occupied a former grocery store beside a tire shop. We arrived at 8:50 the next morning. Nathan had brought coffee in travel mugs. His was normal. Mine was Celia's because she had seen him fill the first cup from her pot and threatened to ban him if he poured it out. The front doors opened at 9:03. A woman named Marlene listened while I explained the jacket. Her expression became guarded as soon as she heard the word donated. "Once an item is donated, it belongs to the organization," she said. "I understand. We can't let people reclaim things because they change their minds. I didn't donate it. That becomes a family matter." Nathan stepped forward. "Our mother donated it less than 16 hours ago. It belonged to our father. She told my sister she could have it, then sent it here before my sister could pick it up." Marlene looked from him to me. "Was it donated accidentally?" Nathan and I exchanged a glance. "Yes," he said. "No," I said at the same time. Marlene crossed her arms. I said, "The donation was deliberate. The result was regretted." "By the donor?" "Not currently." Nathan rubbed his forehead. I continued, I'm not asking you to ignore policy. If it has been processed and priced, I'll buy it. If it's still in a bag, I'm asking you to let me identify it before it disappears into inventory. Marlene studied my face. Are you active duty? Yes. That doesn't change the policy. I didn't think it did. Something in her expression eased. She led us through swinging doors into a back room filled with plastic bins and tied garbage bags. The air smelled like dust, laundry detergent, and somebody else's basement. Yesterday's clothing donations are along that wall, she said. You have 10 minutes. Don't open anything marked household goods. There were at least 30 bags. Nathan took the left side. I took the right. The first bag I opened contained 12 identical green polo shirts and 1 pair of sequin pants. The second held winter coats. The third released a smell that ended the investigation immediately. Across the room, Nathan sneezed. Find it? I asked. I found a sweater made of cat. Check the pockets. I'm not touching it again. At 7 minutes, Marlene appeared in the doorway. 2 more minutes. I opened another black bag, men's jeans, flannel shirts, a canvas belt. I recognized the belt because Dad had cut 2 additional holes in it with a drill. This is his. Nathan crossed the room. We pulled out Dad's clothes 1 piece at a time. The blue work shirt with his old company logo, 2 pairs of khakis Mom had tried to throw away every spring, a sweatshirt from the diner. The flight jacket was at the bottom. I lifted it by the shoulders. The leather was colder than I expected. Dad's name was written inside the collar in faded black marker, R. Mercer. Beneath it, in smaller letters, someone had once written, "Try returning this one." I laughed. Nathan touched the sleeve. He was wearing this the morning he died. I looked at him. It was cold. He came into the house complaining that the heater in the garage took 10 minutes to do a 6-minute job. What was he doing out there? Fixing an old footlocker. The latch had broken. Marlene returned. That the one? Yes. She looked at the bag of clothes. We can't release it without payment. That's fine. She carried the jacket to the register and typed in $12. I paid. Marlene put it into a plastic shopping bag. I'll carry it, I said. I figured. Outside, Nathan leaned against the SUV. You shouldn't have had to buy Dad's jacket back. $12 is less than Walter charged for loading time. That's not funny. It's a little funny. He took out his phone. I'm calling Mom. Why? To tell her we found it. What do you expect to happen? She needs to know she can't keep doing this. She knows, then someone has to make her stop. The sentence sounded new in his mouth. I draped the jacket over my arm. You can't make her stop. You can decide what you do when she starts. Nathan stared across the parking lot. His phone rang before he could answer me. Mom. He looked at the screen, then declined the call. It rang again. He declined it again. The third call came to me. I answered. Where is your brother? Mom asked. Standing beside me. I've called him twice. I know. Put him on. He has a phone. I am aware of that. Then you've reached the technical limit of my assistance. Her breathing changed. Did you go to the shop? Yes. You embarrassed Warren. Warren wasn't there. You interrogated him last night. I asked where he took the jacket. I told you it was donated. And now it isn't. There was silence. I could almost feel her recalculating. You bought it back, she said. Yes. So you got what you wanted. I looked at Dad's name inside the collar. I wanted you not to give it away. That was no longer available. The matter-of-fact cruelty of it scraped deeper than shouting would have. Nathan held out his hand for the phone. I gave it to him. Mom, he said, I'm not coming over today. You promised to help me with the bank appointments. I said I'd drive you Friday. I need to review the accounts first, then review them. Alone? Yes. Her voice sharpened enough that I could hear it from where I stood. Ever since your sister arrived, you've become completely unreliable. Nathan's face went pale. For years, reliable had been his decoration. Good son, stayed close, always there. Mom knew exactly which thread to pull. He swallowed. "I'll call you tomorrow," he said. "If you don't come today, don't bother." He closed his eyes. Then he ended the call. We drove to the diner with the jacket laid across the back seat instead of folded in a bag. Celia inspected it at the counter. $12, she said. Apparently Dad depreciated. He'll haunt the shop. He'd wait for a coupon. She ran her thumb over the cracked leather. He wore this to breakfast last week, spilled syrup on the cuff. I found the stiff patch near the sleeve and smiled. Upstairs, I hung the jacket inside the closet beside my uniform. Nathan stood in the bedroom doorway. "You gonna listen to that voicemail?" he asked. I turned. He nodded toward the phone on the nightstand. "I don't know. You keep looking at it. I keep looking at lots of things." Dad hated voicemail. He hated leaving it. He enjoyed making other people listen to his. Nathan sat on the edge of the bed. I picked up the phone and pressed play. Dad's voice filled the small room. "Hey, Bug, your mother says I shouldn't call when you're working. So, naturally I'm calling when you're working. Garage doors making that sound again. Nathan says rollers. I say track. We've agreed he's wrong. Call when you can. No rush. Love you. Be safe." The message ended. 27 seconds. No revelation, no final wisdom. Dad had not known he was dying, so he had wasted his last voicemail on a garage door and a joke about Nathan. I played it again, then a third time. Nathan covered his mouth with one hand. "He was wrong," he said thickly. "About what?" "It was the rollers." I laughed into the heel of my hand, and then I was crying hard enough that breathing became work. Nathan moved closer but did not touch me until I leaned into him. For once, neither of us tried to make the other one easier to carry. When the message played a fourth time, Nathan lifted his head. "The Foot Locker," he said. "What about it?" "The last morning." Dad replaced the latch, then put it behind the shelving in the garage. He wiped his face with his sleeve. "When I asked what was in it, he said it was yours." "What do you mean?" "He said it was mine." "Exactly that." "No, exactly. Nathan rubbed both palms over his face. He was crouched beside it with a screwdriver. I asked why he was fixing a latch on something that looked like it had survived a shipwreck. He said, "It's Lena's, more or less." Then he told me to move the shelving unit so he could slide it behind there. "You helped him hide it?" "I helped him store it." Behind a 6-foot metal shelf. The garage was full. The garage was always full. He said you'd know what to do with it. I sat up straighter. "Why didn't you mention this before?" "My father died 4 days ago, Lena. I forgot about a Foot Locker." The defensiveness in his voice lasted only a second. Then he said, "I'm sorry. No, you're right." He looked at the closet where Dad's jacket hung beside my uniform. I remembered because he was wearing that, he said. He took it off when he started working and hung it over the lawnmower. Mom came out and told him he was going to ruin the leather. He said the jacket had already survived the United States government. That was one of his favorite arguments. He had 4, 5. "You're forgetting, it hasn't killed me yet." That was less an argument than a medical theory. My phone still held Dad's voicemail open. His name sat above the play bar as ordinary as if he might leave another one. I locked the screen. "We need to get the Foot Locker," I said. Nathan took out his phone. Mom did not answer his call. She did not answer mine either. He typed a message. "Dad told me the old Foot Locker in the garage was for Lena. We need to pick it up." The response came before he could set down the phone. No, one word. No punctuation. Nathan typed, "Why?" Another immediate response. Because I said no. I almost admired the efficiency. "Tell her we're coming at 10, I said. "She'll lock us out. She already locks us out. It's her house." "I know." He looked at me carefully. "Do you?" The question irritated me because he had earned the right to ask it. "Yes," I said. "I'm not suggesting we break in. I have a key. That would still be entering after she told us not to. You've become very restrained since offering Walter $2. Bereavement changes people." Nathan called Brooke. She answered with, "What did Judith do? How do you know she did something? You've called me voluntarily 4 times in 2 days." He explained the footlocker. Brooke listened, then said, "Do not go into the house without her." "I know. And do not tell her it contains something important." "We don't know that it does." Judith gave away a jacket because Lena wanted it. Importance is now a dangerous quality. After they hung up, Nathan sent Mom another message. "We will not enter without your permission. Please name a time we can collect the footlocker Dad said was Lena's." Mom waited 9 minutes before answering. "Noon. You have 15 minutes. "She's reduced us from an hour," I said. "At this rate, Dad's taxes will be settled through a drive-by." We arrived at 11:58. The garage door was closed. Mom stood at the front door wearing navy slacks and a cream sweater. She had done her hair. The brooch from the memorial was gone, leaving 2 tiny holes in the fabric near her shoulder. Brooke came with us but remained beside the SUV. Mom noticed her. "Do you need a witness?" Nathan put his hands in his coat pockets. "We need space in the car. You brought the largest vehicle you own for 1 footlocker. It's also Tuesday." "What does that mean?" "Nothing. I'm trying not to engage." She stepped aside. The house had changed again. Dad's canvas jacket was no longer on the kitchen hook. His shoes were gone from the mat. 3 framed photographs had disappeared from the hallway wall, leaving clean rectangles on faded paint. I stopped. Where are the pictures? I'm reorganizing. Where are they? Safe. Nathan touched my elbow. Footlocker. Mom led us through the kitchen and unlocked the interior garage door. The metal shelving unit had been pulled away from the wall. Behind it sat an olive green footlocker with rust along the lower corners and Raymond Mercer stenciled across the lid in white letters. The latch was shiny brass. A red-handled screwdriver lay on top. Dad had not put it away. Nathan saw it too. His breath caught. Mom said, "You have 12 minutes." I knelt beside the footlocker. The new latch resisted, then released with a snap. The smell came first. Old paper, machine oil, cedar, and the particular dry scent of things stored longer than anyone intended. A stack of letters lay beneath a folded brown towel. My handwriting covered the top envelope. "Dad, training is awful. You were right about the boots. Do not tell Mom I said that." I had written it during basic training. I remembered buying the stamps. I did not remember what else I had said. There were dozens underneath. Letters from technical school, postcards from temporary assignments, cheap souvenirs I had mailed because Dad enjoyed objects that served no purpose. A plastic camel, a tiny metal windmill, a snow globe with most of its water gone. Nathan crouched beside me. "He kept all this?" Mom stood near the workbench. "Your father kept everything." "He threw out my bowling trophy," Nathan said. "It was broken. It was missing the bowler's arm. Exactly." Under the letters were photographs, not formal ones. Dad asleep in an airport chair while waiting for my delayed flight. Me under the kitchen sink with my legs sticking out while he offered instructions from a safe distance. Nathan and me on the dock, both holding the same fishing net and arguing about whose fish was inside. Some had been displayed once, most had not. There was an envelope stuffed with grocery receipts. On the back of one, Dad had written Lena plus 7 hours, call after 4. Another said, ask about inspection. Another, Lena home 16th, get pancake mix. Nathan sat down on the concrete floor. Mom's face closed. Receipts, she said. He wrote on whatever was nearby. I know, I said. I put them back in the envelope. At the bottom of the footlocker lay a half-finished wooden display case shaped like a triangle. Dad had sanded 2 sides, smooth but left pencil marks along the third. The glass had not been installed. Beneath it was the folded flag from his guard retirement. I touched the edge of the fabric. Dad had kept the flag in a cardboard box for years. Every time I suggested buying a proper case, he said he could build one for less. Every time Mom suggested throwing away the scrap wood in the garage, he said he had plans for it. Nathan lifted the unfinished case. He was making this. Apparently. For you, I don't know." He turned it over. The words were written on the underside in Dad's blunt carpenter's pencil. "For Lena, who always comes when it matters." Nobody spoke. The furnace clicked on behind the garage wall. I traced the word comes without touching it. Mom said, "He knew you'd like that." Her voice was flat. I looked up. "He knew exactly what to say to make you feel important," she continued. "Mom," Nathan said, "no, you both came here looking for proof, and now you have it. Congratulations." "This isn't proof of anything," I said. "Of course it is. It says precisely what you want to hear. It says what Dad wanted to write. You think that makes it different?" "Yes." Her eyes filled. "He spent his whole life cushioning you from consequences. You missed Christmas, and he told everyone the weather was dangerous. You missed my birthday, and he said your schedule had changed. You missed Thanksgiving, and he kept your place set until dinner went cold. I called on Thanksgiving. A phone call is not a chair." Nathan stood. "She was overseas. You both keep saying that as if distance happened to her." "I volunteered," I said. "I know. Do you?" "Yes. I chose a life that took me away. Dad was proud of that choice. You were hurt by it. Both can be true." Mom shook her head. "What cannot be true," I said, "is that he believed I didn't love him just because you needed to believe it." She looked at the pencil inscription. "He never wrote things like that for Nathan." The words came out almost softly. Nathan flinched. I set the wooden case down. "This is not something I won from him. You always won." "Against who?" "Everyone who stayed. There was no contest until you made one. You arrived in a uniform. I arrived in the clothes I had on. You played your song. Dad's song. You sat in my chair. There was an empty chair beside my brother at my father's memorial. It was empty for me. Then you should have sat in it." Her mouth opened. I had never considered the chair might have been left for her because she planned to sit elsewhere, perhaps beside Warren before I arrived. Or maybe she had intended emptiness itself to be visible. I no longer knew. Mom looked at Nathan. "Are you hearing the way she speaks to me?" "Yes," he said. And I'm hearing the way you speak to her. She has been here less than a week, and you are defending her against your own mother. I'm not defending her against you. I'm asking you to stop making me a reward for agreeing with you." Her face went white. Nathan continued, voice shaking now. "I am not the good son because Lena is a bad daughter. I am not loyal because she left. I live nearby. I help when I can. She lives far away and helps when she can. Stop using me to punish her. I have never done that. You did it in Dad's memorial program. That was limited space. You included bowling." Mom stared at him. "If you repeat that she abandoned Dad," he said, "I will correct you every time." Her hand went to the place where the brooch had been. "So you've chosen." "No, you just did. I'm not choosing between you, I'm refusing the choice." Mom walked to the interior door and opened it. "Take the footlocker," she said. "Take the jacket, take the tools, take every object you need to build your version of your father." I stood. "My version includes you," I said. She gripped the doorknob. His version did too. For 1 second, she looked toward the open footlocker, at the letters, receipts, photographs, ridiculous plastic camel, and unfinished case. Then she turned away. Nathan found Dad's furniture dolly beside the compressor. We strapped the footlocker to it without removing anything. The broken wheel made it pull to the left. Brooke opened the back of the SUV. As Nathan rolled it down the driveway, Mom stood behind the screen door. "Leave your key," she called. He stopped. Brooke closed her eyes. Nathan took the house key from his ring. It was attached to a blue plastic tab labeled Mom/Dad in Dad's handwriting. He walked back and placed it on the porch rail. Mom did not pick it up. In the SUV, the footlocker shifted when Brooke turned the first corner. I put my hand against the lid to steady it. Nathan sat in the passenger seat, staring forward. "I didn't know she'd ask for the key," I said. "I did. Do you want to go back?" He looked at the blue tab still hanging from the empty ring in his hand. "No," he said, "but I want her to wish I would." Brooke drove us to their house without turning on the radio. The table saw occupied one side of the garage beneath a blue tarp. Dad's recovered compressor sat near the water heater, and the green toolbox had been returned that morning by his former co-worker. Our success rate looked impressive until I remembered we were recovering things that should never have left. Nathan guided the dolly down the SUV ramp. The broken wheel caught at the threshold. The footlocker tipped toward him. I grabbed the side handle. "Easy. I have it." "You clearly don't." "I'm grieving. My balance is compromised. You've had poor balance since birth. Mom said you dropped me. She was trying to create division." Brooke leaned against the open hatch. "I'm beginning to understand why Ray kept written reminders to call you both separately." We got the footlocker beside the workbench. Nathan's phone buzzed. He read the message without opening it fully, then put the phone face down. "What did she say?" Brooke asked. Key received. "Warren is taking her to the bank Friday. No need for me to call." The last sentence had been designed to make him call. He picked up a rag and wiped dust from the footlocker lid. "You don't need to decide anything right now," I said. "I know." He kept wiping the same spot. I unlatched the lid. Dad's letters and souvenirs sat exactly where we had packed them. The unfinished flag case was wedged along one side, protected by the brown towel. Brooke lifted the plastic camel. "Why?" "I sent it from a training trip. It's missing a leg. It had 4 when I mailed it." Nathan examined the base. Dad glued this one back on. The glue had yellowed around the joint. I took it from him and put it beside the receipt envelope. For the next hour, we emptied the footlocker onto a folding table. Not to build a case against Mom, not to count which of us Dad had loved more. We needed to check for moisture damage before putting everything back. That was the reason I gave. The actual reason was that I wanted to touch every piece. Dad had saved boarding passes from visits I barely remembered. A restaurant napkin with a phone number that turned out to be mine from before I had a cell phone. A postcard from Nevada showing a sunset so aggressively orange it looked radioactive. There were letters I did not remember writing. In one, I complained about basic training food and said Mom had predicted I would quit within a month. Beneath that sentence, Dad had drawn a small wrench in blue ink. No comment, just the wrench. Nathan read over my shoulder. "I didn't know she said that. She said a lot of things. Did Dad know?" I wrote him the letter. That's not what I asked. I folded it along the old crease. He told me she was scared. "Were you?" "Yes. You didn't act like it. That was the assignment." He sat on the edge of the workbench. "You do that with everything." "Do what?" "Turn it into a job. I'm checking paper for mildew. You're sorting your dead father into categories." The words landed harder than he intended. Brooke said, "Nathan." "No, he's right." I put the letter down. "But categories are useful." "Until they aren't," he said. His phone buzzed again. This time the screen showed Aunt Carol. He stared at it. "Answer," I said. "Why me? She has your number. She has yours too." My phone began ringing. "Aunt Carol." "Efficient," Brooke said. I answered. Carol skipped hello. "Your mother is devastated." "I'm aware. She says Nathan surrendered his house key. She asked him to. She was upset. So was he. You know how Judith speaks when she's overwhelmed. I know how everyone excuses her when she's overwhelmed." Carol breathed heavily into the phone. She had used the same technique during every family disagreement since 1998. "She feels the two of you went into Ray's home and carried away his personal belongings. We went in at the time she gave us. She told us to take the footlocker. Does that make it right? It belonged to Dad, and he wrote that it was for me." Nathan looked at me. Carol said, "Judith says there is some note you're treating like a declaration." "I'm not treating it like anything. She thinks you intend to show people." I looked at Dad's pencil inscription on the wooden case. "No." "No what?" "I'm not showing people." Then why did Nathan mention it to her? Because he was standing there when we found it. Carol lowered her voice. Your mother feels humiliated. She cropped me out of a photograph, left me out of an obituary, gave me the wrong memorial date, and donated Dad's jacket after promising it to me. It wasn't an obituary. I closed my eyes. That's what you took from that? I'm saying grief makes people behave strangely. It doesn't make scissors operate themselves. Brooke covered a laugh with her hand. Carol became colder. You have always been very hard on your mother. I have spent most of my life trying not to be. You left. I enlisted. Exactly. There was no answer inside that conversation. There never had been. I'm not sending photographs of Dad's private things, I said. I'm not asking relatives to vote on whether he loved me. If Mom tells you I abandoned him, you can believe her or you can ask me. Those are your choices. I ended the call. Nathan's phone had stopped ringing. He picked it up and opened the family group message. Mom had written to Carol, Warren, 2 cousins, and us. Nathan and Elena removed items from the house despite my objections. I hope everyone will respect my need for space while I deal with this latest loss. Nathan began typing. What are you saying? I asked. The truth. Which truth? That she told us to take the footlocker. She'll argue about tone. Then I'll send the message where she said it. Don't. He looked up. Why? Because then she'll argue that she said it under pressure. Carol will say we forced her. Warren will say grief is complicated. You'll spend all night proving a sequence of events to people committed to misunderstanding it. So we let her lie? No. Correct it once. Don't prosecute it. His jaw tightened. That's easy for you to say. You're leaving. The garage went quiet. Brooke looked at him sharply. He put the phone down. I didn't mean it that way. You did. I meant you'll go back to your life. I'll still be here. So? So you can set a boundary from another continent. I have to run into Aunt Carol at the grocery store. You think distance makes her quiet? No, I think it makes you unreachable. That's not the same thing. It is when something breaks. I stared at him. He gestured around the garage. Dad's gone. Mom is furious. You have 9 days left, and then what? We become 2 people who text on birthdays again? I have 11 days. That's not an answer. No, it isn't. I leaned against the folding table. My unit will move on without me, I said. It already is. Bell called about a schedule and solved it before I answered. Lieutenant Kwan made a spreadsheet. Apparently, civilization survived. Nathan waited. I don't know how to do this part, I admitted. I know how to return to work. I know how to pack the footlocker and get on a plane. I don't know how to be your sister from where I live. You could call. You hate calls. I might learn. You could answer messages. You send messages like arrived and acknowledged. They communicate essential information. They sound like a hostage is holding your punctuation. Brooke stepped backward. I'm going inside before this becomes healthy enough to frighten me. Nathan watched her leave. I said, I can call Sunday nights. Mom calls Sunday nights. Then Tuesdays. I have league bowling. Dad never mentioned that. I'm terrible. He would have mentioned that. He did. We looked at each other. I don't want to lose you because he died, Nathan said. The plainness of it hurt more than Mom's precision ever could. You won't, I said. He nodded. That sounded like a promise. It was. Good. He picked up his phone and typed into the family group. Mom gave us a specific time to collect the footlocker and told us to take it. Dad intended it for Lena. No one removed anything else. I will not discuss this further in a group message. He sent it. Mom responded less than a minute later. I see. 2 words capable of poisoning a municipal water supply. Nathan muted the conversation. We spent the following afternoon collecting the rest of Dad's tools. Mrs. Harkins answered her door with the portable compressor already sitting in the hallway. I truly thought it cleaned carpets, she said. It could, Nathan replied once. She looked horrified. We assured her he was joking. At Dad's former co-worker's house, the green toolbox was waiting on the porch. He apologized 3 times and offered us a socket organizer as compensation. Nathan accepted it before I could object. "You have to let people do something," he said when we reached the car. He didn't do anything wrong. That's why the apology was bothering him. We visited Dennis to identify the charity truck. We called 2 organizations. One had Dad's jack stands and assorted hand tools still in its intake area. We bought those back too. By the time we finished, we had recovered most of the pegboard outlines and spent $43 reclaiming Dad's possessions. Nathan kept every receipt. "For Walter?" I asked. "For me. I've apparently become the human receipt." Dad would be devastated. At his garage, we cleaned rust from the footlocker with steel wool. I touched up the stencil where corrosion had eaten the bottom of the R. Nathan replaced the broken dolly wheel so the whole thing stopped pulling left. We did not finish the wooden flag case. Dad's pencil marks and uneven sanding felt like part of it. I fitted a thin sheet of glass, then removed it again because the corners did not sit flush. "Leave it," Nathan said. "I can fix it." "I know." The words irritated me for almost 10 seconds. Then I put down the screwdriver. We ate dinner at Celia's after closing. She brought pancakes without asking, burned the first batch while arguing with a supplier on the phone, and served them anyway. Dad would have approved. Celia saw the photographs we had selected to return to the footlocker. One showed him in the garage, pointing a drill in the wrong direction. "He was happy in that room," she said. Nathan cut into a blackened pancake. "Mom may never let us back in it, then honor him somewhere else." I looked at her. "We already had a memorial. You had Judith's memorial. I'm not staging a competing service." "Good. Services require decent coffee. Your coffee wouldn't qualify." She ignored that. "I'm saying sit down with people who knew him and tell the stories nobody approved in advance." Nathan looked at me. "The garage," he said. "Mom just took your key. We ask. She'll say no. Then we don't do it there." Celia leaned both elbows on the counter. "Ray liked midnight breakfast. He liked breakfast at any time," I said. "He liked music nobody else wanted. He liked Brooke. He tolerated Nathan." "High praise," Nathan said. Celia looked at me. "And he missed you." I turned my fork over. No microphones, no printed programs, no one explaining what Dad valued through an attack with my name removed. Just the garage, bad pancakes, and the right song. I called Mom before I could turn the idea into a risk assessment. She answered on the 4th ring. "What?" "I want to have a few people at the garage Friday night." "No." "Celia, Nathan, Brooke, Daniel, maybe Martin. People who knew Dad. He had a memorial." "I know." "Then why?" "Because parts of him were missing from it." Her silence sharpened. "This is exactly what I feared," she said. "You're replacing me. You're invited. To my own husband's garage? To remember him with us, under your supervision. No speeches, no audience, no version wins. You already have the version with the song and the inscription. I have 11 days before I leave. I don't want to spend them fighting over who gets to miss him." She said nothing. "I'll accept no," I told her. "But I won't accept another lie about why." I ended the call before she could. Nathan stared at me. That was abrupt. I accepted her answer. "You gave her 12 seconds. She's efficient." A knock sounded against the locked diner door. Celia looked through the front window. Mom stood outside holding Nathan's blue-tagged house key. She looked past all of us and found me. Then she raised the key and tapped it once against the glass. Celia unlocked the door but did not open it. "You want her in here?" she asked me. "It's your diner." "That is not what I asked." Mom tapped the key against the glass again. Nathan stood. "Let her in." Celia turned the lock and stepped back. Mom entered without looking at her. She wore a wool coat over the same cream sweater from earlier. Her hair had fallen flat on one side as if she'd been lying down before deciding to drive over. "You're closed," she said. "Sharp as ever," Celia replied. Mom looked at the plates on the counter. "You're feeding them pancakes at night. I'm a danger to society." Nathan moved around the counter. "Why are you here?" Mom held out his key. He did not take it. "I thought you wanted it back," she said. "You asked me to leave it, and now I'm returning it. Why?" Her fingers closed around the blue plastic tag, "Because I should not have asked." The apology was hidden inside the grammar, but it was there. Nathan glanced at Brooke. "You can use the garage Friday," Mom said. "The house is off limits." "I'll need the bathroom," Celia said. Mom looked at her. "You have a diner." "I am not walking 2 miles because grief has a floor plan." "Celia," I said. She started it. Mom held the key out again. This time Nathan accepted it. "What changed?" he asked. "Nothing changed." "Then why did you drive here?" "I realized your father would have wanted people in the garage. You knew that before." Mom's gaze moved to me. "Your sister made it clear she would create another memorial somewhere else. I said I wouldn't use the garage if you said no. You also said parts of Ray were missing. They were. That's your opinion." "Yes." She seemed unsettled by how easily I agreed. Celia began stacking the plates. Brooke helped her, giving our family the appearance of privacy in a room where every spoon could hear us. Mom said, "I don't want Warren there." "He wasn't on the list," I said. Her face tightened. "Because he spoke at my memorial? Because he didn't know Dad well enough to speak without notes from you. He knew him for 27 years. Then you shouldn't have had to tell him what Dad valued. He asked for guidance. And you gave him a weapon." Nathan said, "Lena, no, she came here." Mom took one step closer. "You want honesty? Fine." When Warren asked what to say, I told him Ray admired the people who stayed close. You told him Nathan was Dad's proudest accomplishment. He was. The word struck Nathan too. I saw it. Not because Mom loved him, because she had made even her praise sound like a position he had to defend. He put the key in his pocket. "Stop." She looked at him. "Do not use me like that again," he said. I said, "I'm proud of you." "No, you said I won." Mom's coat hung open. Her hands were empty now, so she gripped the edges. "I spent 41 years with your father," she said. "I was there for the bills, the surgeries, the leaking roof, the mornings he couldn't find his glasses because they were on his head. Then Elena walked into that lodge in uniform, and everybody looked at her like she had crossed an ocean to perform a miracle. I crossed an ocean because Dad died. I know. Do you?" I knew what they would see. The brave daughter arriving at the last moment. Not the daughter who missed the first moment and the 10,000 moments before it. No one applauded me. They didn't need to. You were wearing the applause. I looked down at my jeans and sweater. "At the lodge," Mom said. "The uniform. I didn't wear it to the service. You walked in wearing it." "Because I came from the airport." "I know." Again, those 2 words. Not denial, not confusion, knowledge. "You didn't want me there because you thought people would admire me," I said. "I didn't want to share that room with the story everyone tells about you." "What story?" "That leaving is noble when you do it." No one spoke. The diner's refrigerator compressor kicked on. A red line from the neon sign crossed Mom's cheek. "I never asked you to call it noble," I said. "Ray did. Dad was proud of me. Ray was proud of anything that frightened him." Despite herself, Mom nearly smiled. "He admired courage," she said. "I admired consistency. You married a man who stored tax receipts in a tackle box. That was 2007. He corrected the system. He bought a second tackle box." Her smile appeared, then vanished. I said, "You had a right to be angry that he left your anniversary dinner. You had a right to hate my schedule. You had a right to want more from me." Mom stared at the counter. "You did not have a right to lie about the memorial," I continued. "You did not have a right to cut me out because you were afraid I'd take up space. I wanted one day when his life was about the people who lived it with him. I lived it with him. From a phone, sometimes. From airports, sometimes. From everywhere, except home. That was still his life." Her eyes filled, and this time she did not blink the tears back. Friday, she said. Use the garage. Leave it as you found it. Then she turned toward the door. Are you coming? Nathan asked. Mom stopped. To the garage, he said. I haven't decided. It's your decision, I said. But if you come, you don't get to edit anyone. She looked at me over her shoulder. You don't get to tell people what their memory means, I continued. You don't get to turn Nathan into the good son or me into the bad daughter. You don't get to punish someone for laughing. What do I get to do? Miss him. The tears spilled then. Mom opened the diner door and left before anyone could see her wipe them away. Celia locked it behind her. Well, she said, that coffee went cold. No one had been drinking coffee. Friday morning, Nathan used the returned key to open the garage. Mom had already raised the main door. She stood beside the workbench wearing Dad's old flannel shirt over her clothes. The sleeves were rolled 3 times. She had brought the missing framed photographs from the hallway and stacked them against the wall. I thought you said the house was off limits, Nathan said. It is. You're in it. I live here. He looked at me. I walked into that. Mom pointed to the pegboard. If you're returning the tools, put them where Ray kept them. We know. The pipe wrench goes on the left. We know. The adjustable. Mom. She stopped. I carried in Dad's socket set and placed it on the workbench. Nathan brought the compressor. Brooke unloaded the green toolbox and the jack stands we had bought back. The outlines on the pegboard filled one by one. Not everything returned. Dad's ball-peen hammer was gone. So was one cordless driver and a set of drill bits. Empty shapes remained. I considered them honest. Mom found a roll of paper towels and began cleaning dust from the framed pictures. She did not apologize for removing them. She also did not put them back in the house. Celia arrived with groceries and an electric griddle. I have an oven, Mom said. We have been denied the house. I can revise the rule. Too late. I've committed to the griddle. Martin brought a keyboard, though Dad's garage barely had room for it between the shelving and the table saw. Daniel arrived with a folding table and a box of paper plates. Brooke brought extension cords because she did not trust Dad's wiring. Mom watched the preparation from the kitchen doorway. You said a few people, she told me. This is 6, 7 with me. I looked at her. She realized what she had said. Are you staying? I asked. I'm standing in my own doorway. That's not the same thing. She folded Dad's flannel more tightly around herself. I have things to do inside. At 9, she went into the house and closed the door. We did not start without her. We also did not wait. Celia poured pancake batter onto the griddle. The first batch burned because she and Daniel were arguing over whether Dad had once put hot sauce in Warren's coffee intentionally. He absolutely did, Daniel said. It was an accident, Celia replied. He brought the bottle from home. He was prepared for accidents. Nathan connected his phone to a small speaker. Dad's favorite songs played too loudly until Brooke lowered the volume. Martin looked offended. Why am I here if we're using a phone? You charge by the hour, Celia asked. I'm free. Then hush. There was no microphone, no rows of chairs. We sat on stools, folding seats, an overturned bucket Dad had labeled not a seat, and 2 lawn chairs with faded fabric. The empty chair near the kitchen door belonged to no one. Daniel told the Ohio story again, but this time he included the part where Dad got lost leaving the ceremony and blamed the base for moving the main gate. Brooke described Dad coming to inspect their bathroom renovation. He had stared at the exposed plumbing for 10 minutes, then said, Well, it's inside the walls for a reason. Nathan told us Dad once repaired a garage door opener by hitting it with a broom. That did not repair it, I said. It opened. Once. He declared victory. Martin played King of the Road. Celia sang several words incorrectly. Daniel corrected her and was also wrong. Dad's empty garage filled with bad rhythm, burnt pancake smoke, and the sound of people laughing without checking whether it was respectful. Near midnight, Nathan nodded toward my phone. I played Dad's last voicemail. His voice entered the garage as if he were calling from the driveway. When he said Nathan was wrong about the rollers, everyone laughed. Nathan pointed toward the garage door mechanism. "I was right," he said loudly, as though Dad might revise the message. The recording ended with "Love you. Be safe." Nobody rushed to speak. I put the phone on the workbench beside the socket set. Celia handed me a pancake almost black around the edges. "Perfect," I said. "Liar. It has character." At 12:30, Martin played the song again, slower this time. The kitchen door opened. Mom stood on the step wearing a plain gray sweater. Dad's flannel was gone. She had no framed photograph, no program, and no prepared expression. Conversation softened, then stopped. Her eyes moved around the garage, counting people, empty spaces, return tools, and the chair beside the door. She looked at me. For the first time since I came home, my mother seemed unsure which version of herself was expected. I did not help her choose. I reached for the empty chair and moved it away from the kitchen door, not toward the center, not beside me, just far enough that Mom could enter the room without asking anyone to stand. She looked at the chair. Celia did not rush over with a plate. Nathan did not say he was glad she had come. Nobody offered to restart the song. The silence belonged to Mom, and for once she had to decide what to do with it. She stepped down into the garage and sat. Martin placed his hands on the keyboard. "Any requests?" Mom glanced at him. "You already played the one Ray wanted. I can play it again. Twice is enough." Celia held out the blackened pancake. Mom took it. "This is burned," she said. "Judith," Celia replied, "I have been through a lot." Daniel laughed first. Mom tried not to, which made it worse. She covered her mouth, but a small laugh escaped. Celia handed her a plastic fork. "There. Now you're involved." Conversation started again without ceremony. Daniel told us about the time Dad locked his keys in his work van, opened it using a coat hanger, then discovered the keys had been in his shirt pocket. Mom corrected one detail. He had used a length of wire, not a coat hanger, then stopped herself. "He hated coat hangers," she said instead. "Said they were dishonest because they looked useful." "That makes no sense," Brooke said. "Most of his principles collapsed under examination." Mom ate another bite of burned pancake. Nathan leaned back in his lawn chair. "Tell them about the smoke detector." She shook her head. "What smoke detector?" I asked. Dad had replaced every smoke detector in the house 1 year and spent the next 6 months testing them whenever Mom cooked. "That was not funny," she said. "He wore ear protection into the kitchen," Nathan told us. "I had burned 1 roast. 3, Mom said. Nathan blinked. "You admit it?" "I'm grieving, not delusional." More laughter. Mom looked down at her plate. Her smile faded, but not from anger. The laughter had reached the part of grief that hurt after warmth instead of before it. She told us about the hardware store where she met Dad. The story was longer than the version from the memorial. Dad had not merely corrected her drill bit choice. He had followed her through 2 aisles explaining why it was wrong, then discovered she worked at the nursing office that handled physicals for his company. He spent the next week convinced I was going to fail his medical exam out of spite, Mom said. "Did you?" Celia asked. I considered it. Dad returned to the store the following Saturday at the exact time Mom had mentioned she usually shopped. He claimed coincidence. She made him carry a bag of potting soil to her car before agreeing to coffee. "What made you say yes?" I asked. Mom thought about it. "He was irritating," she said, "but he paid attention." The answer sat quietly among us. Near one, Daniel packed the folding table. Martin carried his keyboard out in 2 trips. Celia wrapped the remaining pancakes in foil despite universal agreement that they should not survive. At the garage door, she hugged Mom. Mom's arms stayed at her sides for the first second. Then she hugged her back. "Your coffee is still terrible," Mom said. "Ray lives." When the others left, Brooke began collecting cups. Nathan folded chairs. Nobody suggested Mom should go inside. I opened the footlocker on the workbench. Dad's unfinished flag case rested on top. His pencil inscription faced down against the towel. Mom stood beside me. "You cleaned the rust." "Most of it." He would have painted over the stencil. He would have used house paint. He used exterior paint on the bathroom cabinet once. I remember. You were home that week. The sentence came without accusation. That almost made me turn toward her. I was. You and Nathan got paint on the bathtub. Nathan got paint on the bathtub. Across the garage, he said, I reject this revisionist history. Mom touched the new brass latch. He bought that latch Tuesday morning, she said. Spent 20 minutes arguing with the cashier over whether the screws were included. Nathan saw him install it. I know. I brought him coffee. I looked at her hand on the metal lid. Did you know what was inside? Some of it. Did you know the letters were there? He used to read them at the kitchen table. Did that bother you? Yes. The direct answer startled me. Mom pulled her hand back. Everything about you became larger because you were gone, she said. A postcard was important. A call changed his whole evening. If you were coming home, he cleaned the garage and bought food nobody else ate. I ate normal food. You made him buy 5 kinds of hot sauce. He enjoyed that. He had acid reflux. He also had free will. Mom's mouth tightened, but she nodded. Nathan was here every week, she said. I was here every day. We became ordinary to him. Nathan stopped folding the chair in his hands. Mom looked at him. That was not your fault. I know. I'm not sure I did. He set the chair against the wall. Mom faced me again. When the hospital called time of death, I thought about calling you. Then I thought about everything that would begin the second I did. Your leave, your flights, whether you could come, whether Ray would have wanted us to wait. You had already booked Sunday. Yes. You knew I had time. Yes. Brooke became still near the sink. Mom lowered her eyes. I told you Friday because I wanted the question settled. If you didn't come, everyone would understand. You were deployed. I could arrange the day without waiting for another decision. You told everyone I chose not to come. I know. You left me out of the program. I know. You cut me out of the photograph. Her breath shook. Yes. Why that picture? Because he was pointing at you. The answer hurt in a new place. Mom stared at the photograph table we had assembled against the garage wall. The cropped copy sat among the others. A thin strip of my blue sleeve remained at the edge. He looked so proud, she said. It was supposed to be a photograph of the plane, and he made it about you. So you removed me. I wanted one room where his life didn't turn toward the daughter who wasn't in it. I was in it. I know that now. You knew it then. She closed her eyes. Yes. Nathan moved closer to Brooke. She took his hand. Mom said, if you missed the memorial, then your absence could mean what I said it meant. I could be angry instead of wondering whether Ray would have forgiven me for arranging his funeral without you. It was a memorial. A small, broken laugh left her. Yes, she said. It was. I waited for the apology. She had spent years teaching us that if we stood in silence long enough, we would fill it for her. Explain, soften, release her from the need to name what she had done. I did not. Mom looked at the concrete floor. I was cruel to you, she said, on purpose. The garage door opener clicked as the motor cooled. I am sorry. I gripped the edge of the footlocker. Part of me had wanted those words so badly that hearing them should have changed the air. It did not. Dad remained dead. The program still existed. The scissors had already closed. Mom looked up. What do I do now? You live with the fact that sorry doesn't undo it. Her face tightened. I'm not saying that to punish you, I said. I'm saying I can't make this disappear because you finally named it. How long will you hold it against me? That's the wrong question. Then what is the right one? How do we keep it from happening again? She folded her arms, but there was no force in it. I said, you don't use my service to explain every hurt. You don't tell people what I feel without asking me. If you're angry that I missed something, say that. Don't turn it into proof that I don't love you. And if you do miss something, I probably will. Then I'm supposed to be understanding forever? No, you're allowed to be angry. You're not allowed to rewrite me. Mom looked toward the kitchen. And if I do? I end the conversation. I leave. I try again another time. So you leave? Yes. Her mouth twisted. Sometimes leaving is a boundary, I said, not abandonment. She did not agree. She also did not argue. Nathan stepped forward. I need the same thing, he said. Mom stared at him. You don't leave. I should have. Brooke squeezed his hand. I love you, Nathan continued. I'll help with the bank. I'll fix things when I can. But I'm not available on demand, and I'm not proof that Lena failed. I never asked you to be. You did. You just didn't use those words. Mom looked down at the key in his hand. You can keep it, she said. That isn't the problem. I know. It might have been the first time she truly did. She stayed while we put the garage back together. The empty chair returned to the folding rack. The griddle went into Celia's car when she came back because she had forgotten it. Dad's tools went onto the pegboard, including the socket set he had promised me. I left it there until my departure. Mom carried the framed photographs into the hallway. She rehung the one of Dad beside his retirement cake and the one of Nathan pushing him into the lake. She carried the cropped air show photograph as far as the kitchen. I don't have the full one, she said. I do. Would you send it? When I get back. She nodded. The next morning, Mom called Aunt Carol while I sat at the kitchen table. She did not put the call on speaker, but I heard her side. I gave Elena the wrong date, she said. No, she didn't misunderstand. I told her Friday. She came because Nathan gave her the correct day. Carol spoke for a long time. Mom stared at Dad's coffee mug on the counter. No, she said. She did not take over the memorial. Another pause. The music was Ray's request. Her voice thinned, but she finished. It was not a public confession. Carol would probably convert it into a more comfortable story by lunch. It mattered because Mom said it without requiring me to thank her. We spent my remaining days doing ordinary work. Nathan and I sorted Dad's office. Mom kept the proud Air Force Dad mug. I took the running shoes and 3 letters. The rest went back into the footlocker. We returned the memorial flag to the unfinished wooden case, but did not install the glass. Dad's pencil marks remained. So did his words underneath. Mom found the missing 1/4-inch socket in the kitchen junk drawer. Ray used it to tighten a chair, she said. The chair probably needed a screwdriver. It held. That was his standard. She placed the socket in my palm. Our relationship did not become gentle. She asked twice whether I really needed to return overseas. The second time, I told her the question sounded like an accusation. She said, "It is only a question." I waited. Then she tried again. "Are you worried about going back?" Yes. That answer seemed to frighten her more than confidence would have. She touched my arm. "Call when you can. Not every day. Not when you land. Not prove you remember me. When you can." Nathan and I agreed on Tuesday calls. He said bowling ended at 9. I said 9 was late. He reminded me I worked across time zones for a living. Brooke made us put the first 4 calls on our calendars while standing in front of her. At dawn on the day I left, a rental car waited in the driveway. Mom stood on the porch in Dad's brown canvas jacket. It was too large for her. She held the sleeve closed around one wrist. We did not attempt a final settlement. She hugged me and said, "Be safe." I said, "I'll call Tuesday." Nathan rolled the restored footlocker to the end of the driveway. Dad's broken dolly wheel no longer pulled left. I opened the rental car's cargo door and reached for the side handle. Nathan took the other end. "I can carry it," I said. "I know." The old answer rose automatically. I almost told him I had it. Almost turned Dad's letters, flag, unfinished case, and all that stubborn metal into one more thing I could move alone. Instead, I tightened my grip and waited for my brother to lift. "On 3, I said. He smiled. This time, I let him take one end.